The Pirate Journey of Arceus. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 876. You refute me. You refute me. The three dragons of Tao were originally one body. After they were separated, Kaido, as the power of the shell, lost the ability to fly. However, it has never been classified into the same category as humans and Groudon, because it can merge. Dark Kaido and Flame Kaido both have the ability to fly. Yamato's lightning wings are not wings in the traditional sense, but are similar to a pair of electromagnetic propellers. After so many years, she has not been standing still. Although Reshiram's reaction to her is mediocre, Zekrom still recognizes her a little. All the power cannot be used, but part of the lightning power is still fine, and this pair of wings is proof. The group of Millennium Dragons flew to a small island in the distance to rest temporarily. Millennium Dragons are creatures, not alarm clocks. They have a special inheritance in their blood. They can know the specific time when Dragon Island appears, but they cannot be accurate to a few minutes and seconds. In most cases, Millennium Dragons will arrive nearby in advance. Just like catching a train, arriving at the station in advance is just waiting. If you are late, no one will wait for you. How long to wait depends on the arrangements of the person in charge. Some people will set off an hour in advance, while others will set off half a day in advance. In order to prevent uncertain events on the road and give the tribe members enough rest time, Farron's father set off in advance for more than 1 or 2 days. When the new year of 1520 just ended, Farron's father was preparing for this matter. Now Yamato is going to do something else on the way, which just makes the time left useful. Yamato and his men are just bored, but the people below are different. They are not talking about Hawkeye, but the fleet of pirates in front. This is the big pirate clique from the East China Sea, with a bounty of 17 million baileys. In the East China Sea, which has been washed several times, it is also a hegemon. He once had 5,000 troops and 50 pirate ships. The reason why it is said to be once is because his current troops have lost more than half. When he was in the East China Sea, he was the largest pirate group in the East China Sea, but when he entered the Grand Line driven by desire, he immediately knew what cruelty was. His ship was so big that it couldn't pass through the narrow route of the Upside Down Mountain, so the Crick pirates took the risk of entering the Grand Line from the Calm Belt. He should be thankful that he was a pirate from the East China Sea. If he went directly to the New World, these 5,000 people would probably be the lowest level even for mining. The Calm Belt has sea kings, and it is very dangerous for ordinary ships to pass through here, but it is not completely impossible to pass. After paying some price, Crick successfully entered the Grand Line, and then met Hawkeye, who was bored. Even though most of his men were killed, Crick still didn't know why the monster was chasing him. Swoosh. The knife flashed, and another ship sank into the sea in front of the pirates. Hawkeye didn't chase closely, just hanging behind slowly. Whenever Crick's men thought they had gotten rid of Hawkeye, he would suddenly appear and cut down a ship with a knife. But after that, Hawkeye would return to the state of drifting with the flow, and wait until Crick was far away, before catching up again. Captain Crick. That monster is still behind us. He is still there. Fire. But the shells are useless against that guy. I told you to aim at the ships at the back and fire, so that they can delay the monster. Ah. But, yes, I understand. Looking at Crick's horrified eyes, he did not say the rest. Crick himself is arrogant, ruthless, and mean. With a cruel heart, he would never care about the lives of his subordinates. He just wanted them to delay time. With a few gunshots, the mast of the pirate ship at the back was blown off. At this time, they have not entered the doldrums yet. Their ships are still moving with the wind. After the mast is broken, they temporarily lose the ability to move, and Hawkeye seems to have really disappeared. In a short period of time, no one knows where the devil went. But in fact, Hawkeye did not continue to chase, which has nothing to do with Crick's behavior. A few minutes ago, Yamato spit out frost from his mouth, freezing the sea in front of Hawkeye, and she fell in front of him. Hey. You're swinging your sword in the sky for no reason. Don't you know that you can easily hurt people like this? You. Ulti, why are you provoking others? I don't think I've done such a thing. Halfway through her words, she suddenly pulled Ulti over and leaned over to ask about her experience. Yamato had experienced many battles, but she had sufficient reasons before. Although Hawkeye affected the sky, the aftermath was not powerful at all. It just dispersed the clouds. She didn't think too much when she came down, but now she was suddenly at a loss for words. Why are you asking me about this? You have experience. Point, why do you need to find excuses? If you want to fight, take your stick and hit him. Learn from your father. Before the two of them came to a conclusion in their discussion, Hawkeye had an answer first. Were you flying in the sky before? I'm really sorry. No, you refuted me. You refuted me. Aren't you one of the 7 warlords of the sea? Shouldn't you be very arrogant and say so what? How can I fight with you like this? Yamato never thought that Hawkeye would give such an answer, which made her even more confused about how to start. Fight? Although I'm bored now and don't mind changing my mood, why would someone like you appear here? Shouldn't the demon princess with a bounty of 1.78 billion bales be active in the new world? Aren't you the same? Anyway, we are all bored, so let's fight. In the end, Yamato still couldn't find a suitable reason, but he still fought with Hawkeye. Compared with those trash who had no power to resist, Yamato was more worthy of his sword. Although she was not a swordsman, Hawkeye still recognized her strength. Although he lived alone on an island with a baboon, he could still see the information in the newspaper. Jumping from the boat to the ice surface created by Yamato, Hawkeye drew out the long sword behind him. The supreme greatsword 12 works, the black sword, Knight. The moment he drew out the blade, his eagle-like eyes exuded an extremely sharp aura. However, before the battle began, there were some inopportune movements, and the sound of cannonballs rang out again. The ship whose mast was broken by Click felt that it had no hope of escape, and was making a final struggle, trying to use cannons to eliminate Hawkeye while he was fighting with others. TSK, nasty guy. Ulti, Ziope, do a favor and let those guys be quiet. I know, you actually stained my skirt. This is a gift from Ziope. Let's go, Ziope, let these guys know how powerful we are. Chapter 877, Hawkeye's movement method. Rhinoceros beetle entrusted with an important task. Ulti skillfully jumped onto page 1's shoulder, and page 1 also transformed into land shark in the process. The two cooperated very well, as if they had gone through many drills. After practice, page 1's flying ability became more and more proficient. At first, he needed to climb to a high place and then jump, but now he has mastered the technique of catapultic yaff. Sister, take it easy, don't hit the sea. Little Peggy, do you finally know how to care about your sister? No, it's just that you really fell in, and it's troublesome to fish you out. Damn, you're not cute at all. When you grow up, change back to your childhood. While playing, the brother and sister approached the 2 pirate ships left by the Click pirates. They seemed very casual, and the pirates they met in this place really didn't interest them. The old weapons on the ship showed that the quality of this group of pirates was not high. The entry of Ulti in page 1 was a massacre, and they didn't even have the ability to break the defense. Compared with them, the battle between Yamato and Hawkeye was the focus. Okay, no one will bother us now. This is my Ken. I heard from those samurai that when facing a qualified swordsman, you have to tell the name of your weapon. Black sword, Knight. Hawkeye gave his response, and then made a gesture of swinging the sword. Although I don't know why you are here, you should have your own things to do. That's about it. Any questions? I also have to deal with some personal matters. Although the cause is boredom, some things can't be abandoned halfway, so let's make a quick battle. How about the time your companions finish the battle? That's it. Yamato just wanted to maintain his condition, so that he wouldn't be unable to react when he returned home. He didn't want to fight Hawkeye to the end, so he readily agreed to this suggestion. Sword energy flew out from Hawkeye's blade. Compared with the flying slash at Click, Mihawk was more focused at this time, and was not swinging the sword casually. Although the opponent in front of him was not a swordsman, he was also worthy of his attention. At the same time, lightning wrapped around Yamato's mace. Swordsmen can use their domineering aura to feed the black knife and enhance the hardness of the blade. After the weapon was finalized, Yamato also used his domineering aura to feed his weapon. Aegean 7.0 is a weapon that inherited the will of the previous Aegeans. With its special materials and forging process, its quality is not inferior to any famous sword. Due to the characteristics of the weapon, it has many advantages when fighting against sharp blades. Thunder Bagua. Hawkeye's moves generally have no names. Kaido's ordinary attack is usually called Thunder Bagua. Yamato's Thunder Bagua is inherited from Kaido. Moreover, neither of them has the intention to risk their lives. Instead, the battle presents a situation of ordinary attack against A. After blocking Yamato's swing, Hawkeye rotated his wrist and transferred Yamato's force with a clever force. It is not a wise behavior to confront her head-on. Facing heavy weapons and the bonus of animal type ability users, he can't get any advantage in a head-on confrontation. Without too much probing, after a few simple exchanges, the battle became fierce, but it lasted only for a short time. The two ships that Krieg left behind were no match for Ulti and Page 1. At this time, on the two ships, Ulti and Page 1 were like heavy tanks that broke into the medieval square formation. Their huge bodies only needed a simple collision to defeat their opponents. The enemy's attacks could not penetrate their scales at all, but would be scratched by the scales. So weak, how did these people get into the Grand Line? I don't know. Even if they are from the Fourth Seas, they should know what a capable person is. These guys don't seem to have even heard of the fruit. Throwing an enemy away casually, Page 1 spit out a flame at the wooden boat next to him, and in the explosion of the shells, took Ulti back to the iceberg, where Yamato and Hawkeye were fighting. The return of the two also meant the end of Hawkeye's battle with Yamato, but Hawkeye did not return to his boat, but stood silently on the iceberg. Isn't it over? Why are you still here? I will leave in a while, just do what you need to do. What a weirdo, but it doesn't seem to be a problem. She knew quite a few of the Shichibuke. According to her understanding, one liked to fantasize about being an info. One always had a fake smile on his face, and didn't even know what his eyes looked like under his sunglasses, and one was too serious, and did everything in a methodical manner. Now Hawkeye was doing things a little abnormally, but there was nothing wrong with it. After Yamato and the others left, Hawkeye did not move rashly. After making sure that they had gone far away, he got back on his coffin boat and continued his pursuit. After leaving, Yamato also discovered a problem belatedly. There was no sea breeze for a while before, right? Yeah. What happened? I saw that he was alone, and he didn't bring any oars. The boat couldn't withstand any wind and waves. How did he drive the boat to chase others? He couldn't just drift when there was no wind. Yamato's question successfully stumped the siblings and triggered a series of discussions. In the end, the question was even asked to Yuta, who was preparing for the performance. Because according to gossip, Hawkeye and Red Hair often communicate, so Red Hair may know the secret. But unfortunately, Shanks refused to reveal the way Hawkeye moved. Hawkeye is still chasing Click, and Yamato also continued to head towards Dragon Island after meeting the tribe of the Millennium Dragon, waiting for that moment to come. But some time ago, something happened in the East China Sea. In the East China Sea, Windmill Village, on an ordinary small boat, Luffy and his Heracross are ready to set sail, and his adventure has officially begun at this moment. After bidding farewell to Aten, Luffy, like Ace 3 years ago, came to the port and boarded the small boat he had prepared. Be careful, if the boat sinks, you must protect it. Yeah, this boat doesn't look like it will last long, and he doesn't want to use my old fishing boat, so it's all up to you then. Before leaving, the residents of Windmill Village were bidding farewell to Luffy and telling him something, but it just sounded a little unlucky. I know, I'll take good care of it. Don't be so self-righteous, Luffy. We are not talking to you, we are talking to Hercule. Hercule, it's not easy to go out. I'll leave this guy to you. Chapter 878. Without me, you would have died long ago. Luffy's voyage was not difficult, and there were even some things missing, such as the absence of the King of the Sea. As a small Sea King, it escaped Garp's plowing operation in the East China Sea, but encountered Gyarados living in the East China Sea. Large Sea Kings usually cannot take advantage of Gyarados, let alone this small one. But their voyage was not smooth. In terms of size, Luffy's ship at this time was about the same as Hawkeye's coffin board, but Hawkeye's ship at least had a sail. With his own boat handling skills, it was not difficult to sail in the wind. Luffy's ship was different. It didn't even have a sail, only oars, which could be called 100% manual power. You row a few times for me too. Hehe. Heracross sat on the wooden barrel at the bow like an old man, not caring about Luffy's request. What? Why do you want to save your energy? After spending so much time together, Luffy could understand what Heracross's cry meant, but the other people in Windmill Village still couldn't understand it. Only Luffy could understand Heracross's words in detail. Heracross didn't say anything, but took out a slightly yellowed newspaper from under him, pointed at the picture on the newspaper, and looked at Luffy with a hint of regret. Ah, isn't this Yuta? You still keep this? Speaking of it, she seems to have become a very powerful character. Heracross stretched out a finger and pointed at another Heracross on the newspaper. Back then, they were just ordinary rhinoceros beetles in Wano country, and later they were randomly assigned to various sea areas to search for possible things. It and Yuta's Asen were obviously on the same starting line, but Asen in the newspaper showed that he had a very comfortable life and even caused a Heracross fever. As a result, he stayed in the small village and fished with this silly boy every day. It would be fine if he was just slacking off, but this silly boy has an even more unreliable grandfather. If it weren't for him, he thought Luffy would have drowned in the lake a few years ago. In order to prevent him from accidentally drowning in a shipwreck, he had to maintain his physical strength. This ship didn't look very reliable. Heracross can fly, but he is not particularly good at it. It takes sufficient physical strength to fly with people in a dangerous sea environment, so he refused to help. It turned out that his prediction was meaningful. Luffy's ship didn't last long in the four seas before it encountered a terrifying whirlpool. Even among the great pirates in the New World, there are only a handful of people who can use humans to fight against the great power of nature. Luffy's ship was unexpectedly sucked in. Looking at the sinking ship, Heracross moved his body and planned to take Luffy away from here. At this time, he felt that he was very smart, but Luffy's cleverness suddenly broke out. I have a plan. Ika? Without giving Heracross a chance to react, Luffy grabbed it and hid in the wooden barrel on the ship, and then began to go with the flow in the true sense. Wow, Hika, let go. Why are you biting me? I obviously saved you. At this time, on an ordinary passenger ship, Hika was hugging Luffy, biting his face fiercely, and hitting his head continuously, but due to the power of the fruit, its fists had no effect. Hika. The language content is too much, and after omitting most of the harmonious words, it can be summarized as, I can fly. Do you know that I can fly? Can't I just fly away? Do you want me to be buried with you? Do you call this saving people? Is your mind empty? Take a step back, and the sky will be broad. Endure for a while, and the more you think about it, the angrier you get. Now think about it. It shouldn't have been greedy for that bite of food back then, and then had an intersection with this guy. Think about the same kind of people beside Yuta. The gap is getting bigger and bigger. Luffy is not afraid of blunt blows due to the fruit ability, so Heracross would bite. One person and one rhinoceros beetle were running around on the deck, which stunned the pirates who were robbing the ship. What are you two bastards doing? Luffy and Heracross's behavior aroused the anger of the pirates next to them. Ironrod Alrita, a pirate from the East China Sea, had a bounty of 5 million berries. Any pirate or samurai from Wano country could basically get rid of her, but in the East China Sea, she can still be domineering. Her hobby on weekdays is to threaten others to admit her beauty and confuse their cognition with lies. Wait, Sister Alrita, that big rhinoceros beetle seems to be quite valuable. What did you say? I seem to have heard that this thing is worth 2 million berries in the pet market. Rhinoceros beetles already have a place in the pet market. At that time, Yuta set off a wave of Heracross, making Heracross the rarest species among rhinoceros beetles, and there are also people who want to buy them. 2 million berries is not a small amount. Hearing that a rhinoceros beetle can be sold for 2 million berries, Alrita's eyes showed a greedy look. Hey, you little brat. Leave your pet rhinoceros beetle with you, so we can consider letting you go. What did you say? As soon as the voice fell, Luffy suddenly stopped, and the expression on his face became serious. Don't you understand? Lady Alrita told you to hand over your rhinoceros beetle. Seeing that Luffy did not respond, several pirates wanted to take Heracross away by force, and directly surrounded him, but they only saw Luffy's outstretched thigh. Rubber whip. He kicked out with his right leg, and all the nearby pirates were kicked aside by him. It's not a pet, it's my partner. Since you want to take my partner away, you are my enemy. You should have been prepared. What nonsense are you talking about, kid? Who would really consider a rhinoceros beetle as a friend? The mace hit Luffy's head. It was the same mace, but the result was very different. Under the rebound of the rubber, Luffy was not affected at all. Rubber pistol. The extended arm bounced back and punched Alrita in front of him. Looking at Luffy's reaction, Heracross nodded on the side, showing a teachable expression. It was for this reason that it stayed with Luffy, otherwise it would have been away from this idiot long ago. Food alone could not restrain it. Then Luffy, Heracross and Kobe took the lifeboat on the ship and left here, but Nami did not appear on Alrita's ship to steal treasures. At this time, she was busy with other things with the villagers in Cocoa West Village. Chapter 879, Human-Insect Combination Skills, the real overlord of the East China Sea. The East China Sea is really the weakest sea area. The pirates here are too weak to fight. Yamato sat on a few boxes in boredom. After arriving in the East China Sea, they had a small conflict with some local pirates, but the battle situation is difficult to describe. In general, Yamato stood there and did nothing, and these pirates could not break through the defense. Not only that, I would not have used those things if I had known earlier. This is a big loss. Peggy 1, who was counting the spoils, also expressed his opinion. These pirates were undoubtedly a group of poor people. They didn't have much money on them, and they were so weak that Peggy 1 was too lazy to do anything, so he simply used some explosive weapons. But war supplies are things that burn money. Counting these spoils, even the loss of his equipment can't make up. As for the weapons used by those pirates, old-fashioned muzzle-loading cannons, single-shot pistols, crude black gunpowder, the quality of the gunpowder they use in the mines is higher than this. But this is also good, so you don't have to worry about any accidents. Furren, we are almost there. Almost, this time it's really almost there. On the other side, the number of members on Luffy's ship began to increase, and Zoro and Usopp appeared on his ship, but the Merry also experienced a lot of hardships in the absence of a navigator. At this time, the 3 people on the ship were deprived of the right to sail, and it was up to Hiro to decide where to go. And the way it decided the direction of travel was also very special. Hiro used Zoro to point the way, and no matter how he pointed, it ended up going the other way, and it was also a coincidence that it drove to the vicinity of the sea restaurant Barity. Under Zepp's management over the years, Barity has also become a well-known restaurant in the East China Sea, but today, many people gathered here, and Click, who fled from the Grand Line in a hurry, also arrived here, and set his sights on Zepp's logbook and Barity's ship. He was arrogant, and did not learn his lesson, and planned to regroup, and return to the Grand Line again. If the pirates of the Grand Line met him, they would definitely admire his courage, because he had the courage to stop Hawkeye. Stop. Do you want to leave like this? Aren't you here to take my head? To take the head of me, the overlord of the East China Sea, Chief Crick? Originally, I was bored, but I met more interesting people along the way. I've had enough fun, and it's time to go back to sleep. By the way, your jokes are very good, but you probably won't have the chance to tell them again. Faced with Crick's provocation, Hawkeye turned a deaf ear. He was known as the world's greatest swordsman, and just because of this title, countless clowns came to challenge him. The weakness of these people made him completely uninterested, and he was even too lazy to remember their names. He didn't hate fighting, but at least he had to have some strength. Even if he didn't have strength, it would be fine if he could see the future. Crick. After losing interest in playing, Crick didn't even have the qualifications to let Hawkeye swing his sword. Hawkeye left in his own boat, but his behavior further fueled Crick's arrogance. But when he was laughing wildly, his Kaido was knocked down. Hika, get ready, use that to knock that guy down. Curly eyebrows, get out of the way, give me the position at the door. Pushing away Sanji, who was going to fight with Bera, Luffy came to the door of the restaurant and found a fixed position for his hands and feet. He leaned back slightly, and Heracross stood directly on his stomach, using Luffy as a human launcher. With the cooperation of one man and one rhinoceros beetle, Luffy's body was gradually stretched, and a white light also lit up on Heracross's horn, and the million-ton horn attack was ready. Rubber siege crossbow. After years of companionship, Heracross and Luffy also have their own cooperation. Using Luffy's body as a bowstring to launch Heracross is a combo skill. This can greatly increase the power of Heracross's attack, and the seemingly funny preparation can also make the enemy relax their vigilance. At least Bera, who was wrapped with shields in front of them, did not pay enough attention to this attack. In his opinion, it was impossible for a rhinoceros beetle to break his iron wall defense. Ideals are full of hope, but reality is cruel. With the impact provided by Luffy, Heracross smashed the large shield on Bera's chest with just one blow, and knocked the unconscious Bera directly into the sea. Luffy then fought with Clique again, and Bera's chefs also started a melee with other pirates. Even though Zep lost a leg, and was already old, it was still easy for him to deal with these ordinary pirates. When Bera was knocked into the sea by Heracross, only Kin could be considered difficult. Due to Clique's order, he still fought with Sanji, but for some reason, he never saw a nervous look on the faces of these chefs. Sanji did not fight with Bera, and his physical strength was not affected. He fought back and forth with Kin, and Kin was still a little hesitant about killing him. Although he temporarily suppressed Sanji, he did not gain a greater advantage. Leave this ship, you can still get a new one. Chief Crick has already set his sights on this place. You are no match for him. If you continue like this, you will all die. You are quite strong, but it's a pity that it's time for the little guy to come back. Sanji took out a lighter and lit a cigarette, his tone full of confidence. What did you say? Dang 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 in the Bharati restaurant. As the hour hand jumped, the alarm clock rang one by one, and the chefs of Bharati also showed a touch of joy on their faces. Not long after the bell rang, several shadows appeared under the sea. A whirlpool appeared on the sea, sucking the pirates who fell into the water into it. With a roar, a blue Gyarados emerged from the water. Roar. The Magikarp that Nereus judged to be unsuitable for entering the Grand Line has also grown up. From that weak Magikarp, it has become a powerful Gyarados. It has been living nearby, and has become the patron saint of Bharati. Now it is no longer the weak Magikarp washed ashore by the waves, but the leader of the Magikarp nearby. Because of this Gyarados and Zeph's knowledge, Bharati established a Magikarp protection organization. Many Magikarp live nearby. This Gyarados will go out to patrol the territory during the day, but will return to Bharati on time at mealtime. This is why the chef of Bharati is not afraid at all. Hey, you are punctual little guy, but you will be late for dinner today. Except for the guy with the hammer, the one wearing a straw hat, the one with the long nose and the green hair, you can solve the rest of the troubles. Chapter 880 The Swarm is Gathering. Roar. In response to Sanji's request, a flame spewed out of Gyarados' mouth and burned directly towards Clique. At the same time, a strong electric current burst out from his body, and the pirates who fell into the sea were directly electrocuted like fish. Hey, this guy's my opponent. I still need to pay him back. What will I do with my meal money if you do this? Seeing Gyarados attack Clique, Luffy felt dissatisfied. However, Gyarados did not care about the noisy straw hat boy. In its eyes, there were only these pirates who destroyed Bharati. It had sufficient experience with enemies on the sea, and it was always right to destroy the enemy's foothold first. Clique's weapons and equipment had no effect on Gyarados. The armor and special cloak could resist bullets and fists, but could not defend against fire and lightning. The gloves and spears could not touch Gyarados, and the bullets would be avoided by it diving underwater. Not to mention that there was a Luffy who was attacking him. When Clique wanted to use his MH5 to defeat these people, the highly toxic gas released was detonated by the flames released by Gyarados, and it had no effect at all. Except for Akin, the Clique pirates were wiped out. His previous mercy saved him in the end. Is the legend of the sea monster true? Clique was cruel and ruthless, but Akin had a mysterious following for him. Seeing Clique defeated and killed, he collapsed on the ground, as if he had lost his soul. At this time, He remembered a legend in the East China Sea. Don't eat a free meal in Berity, otherwise the sea monster will teach you how to be a human being. It's not a sea monster, but a beautiful girl. Do you want to consider staying here to do odd jobs? You are different from those pirates. No, if it's convenient, give me a small boat. Maybe we will meet again in the future. Akin left Berity in a daze and lived the legendary life where everything can be akin. Sanji finally joined Luffy's team, but Gyarados did not leave with him. Instead, he stayed in Berity and continued to protect the nearby Magikarp. Just the second day on the boat, Sanji felt regretful. Your navigator is this rhinoceros beetle. This green algae head is your compass? How did you get to this place? He had seen a navigator with two swords, but he had never seen a rhinoceros beetle commanding the direction. This was too magical for him. But Sanji didn't know that there would be new troubles the next day because Hercule disappeared. Heracross, where have you been? Luffy searched every corner of the ship, but he didn't see Heracross. He was so depressed that he lay on the deck. Even Sanji's food couldn't make him stand up. Hey, Luffy, don't be so depressed. It's also a rhinoceros beetle. It's normal for it to go out. No, Heracross never missed breakfast before. Something must have happened to it. Usopp, Zoro, have you seen Heracross? Zoro woke up with Luffy shouting. The rest time of several people on the ship was different. Luffy's sleep time was about 5 hours, and he fell asleep randomly. Zoro would rest for 3 hours from 4 in the morning to 7 in the morning, and take time to catch up on sleep during the day. When he was still awake last night, he happened to see Heracross. Last night, a rhinoceros beetle that looked very similar to it passed by here, and then it told me a lot of things, and it seemed to ask me to give this to you, but I don't know what it said. There was a scribbled picture on a piece of letter paper, and there were a few Heracross's paw prints. Looking at the scribbled picture, Sanji and Usopp were also confused. These should be scribbled paw prints, right? Yeah, it's too ridiculous that a rhinoceros beetle can draw. It's better to say that dancing will make you stronger. Don't be ridiculous, Usopp. How can someone become stronger by dancing? I just said it casually, but I heard Heracross said he went to help his friend fight. While Sanji and Usopp were talking, Luffy suddenly shouted, as if he had been enlightened. Damn it, he didn't even call me. Is he looking down on me? No, how did you understand it? Yeah, what are these drawings about? Except for Luffy, the other three couldn't understand the extremely abstract drawings at all, so Luffy had to give a professional explanation. Are you idiots? Hercules has drawn it very clearly. There is a bad mouse bullying its friends. It is going to help find a place now. Let's wait for it here for a few days. No, I have to help it. But it has already left in advance. How can you find it? At this time, several Heracrosses just flew over on the sea nearby. Luffy hurriedly chased after it and caught a Heracross and began to express his meaning with body language. He also expressed his purpose with the drawings left by Hercules. Fortunately, Luffy and Hercules have been together for a long time and have a certain understanding of the language of Heracross and finally successfully achieved communication. The Golden Mary also changed its course and followed them to a new direction. There was nothing they could do otherwise. After losing the rhinoceros beetle, the 4 men on the ship were surprised to find that none of them could determine the direction of navigation. Hercules' departure was not an accident, but a matter of the Heracross tribe. At the beginning, the Heracross dispersed to various islands to form independent groups. Some Heracross are still single insects, such as Hercules, but some have multiplied and given birth to the second and third generations of Heracross. Individual differences have also become very large. The first generation of Heracross created by Arceus is undoubtedly the strongest. These Heracross are enough to occupy a place in the Grand Line, and they are also responsible for returning to the Ghost Island for pilgrimage. Ordinary Heracross just search for news near their residence and report regularly. But even the first generation of Heracross, due to the different characteristics of the original beetle, has its own strengths and weaknesses, not to mention the descendants. Compared with the original Heracrosses, their descendants seem a little weak and often encounter difficulties. When they encounter problems that they cannot solve, they will seek help from the nearby Heracrosses. For bug-type Pokemon, numbers are their advantage. Hero encountered Heracross who was out looking for help. At this time, the nearby Heracrus were approaching Kokosi village. The root of all this was the gold mine discovered in Kokosi. Chapter 881. The benefits of money, mouse, and buggy. At this time, Eren spent most of his time with Tiger. Unlike Jinbei, Tiger had absolute suppression power over Eren, both in terms of strength and psychology. The baptism of time also changed Eren a little. When Tiger was not around, he was like a park guard, slacking off in the park built by Manderfish, and he changed from a bully in the East China Sea to a security guard at the entrance of the kindergarten. Looking at the fishman and mermaid children playing inside, his words also changed. He was no longer the hatred theory before, but he still had his doubts. Don't be too naive. Not all humans are the same as the people here. If you see humans in other places, remember to stay away, and don't cause trouble for yourself. Eren's logic is also reasonable. The outside world's views on fishmen or mermaids have not changed. If the life here makes them let down their guard, it is actually very dangerous for them. Eren's life has changed, and the same is true near Kokosi village. Without Eren, they don't have this oppressor, and they can be regarded as having a good life for a while. Kokosi is also becoming increasingly prosperous due to the gold mine. The gold reserves of that mine were not small, and it was not easy for the villagers of Kokosi village to mine it alone. Led by Aegean and Belma, they began to contact people from several nearby villages to jointly mine the gold mine. To be precise, it was not only mining, but also protection. They needed young and strong people from other villages to jointly protect the gold mine from being robbed by others. The world government had no interest in such rural places, and there were many islands in the pirate world. Whoever dug out such a small place would own it, and there was no need to report it everywhere. Even the Beast Mining Company had many unknown mineral sources in private, and they only approved one of them when they opened a company. With a gold mine, there was money, and at the same time, greed would breed. People who coveted this gold mine never disappeared. After enjoying the convenience brought by the gold mine, the people of Kokosi did not want to give it up, and the conflict began. With the gold mine as a source of funds, they also purchased a lot of weapons, integrated the villagers in the village, and formed a mining protection team after training. Kokosi village also gradually changed from an inconspicuous small village to a local small tyrant. This is the East China Sea. Pirates with ability are almost extinct. A bounty of more than 10 million is a rare big pirate. With the help of the mountainous terrain, most people can't do anything about this gold mine if the equipment quality is strong enough. Although the two Heracruses who settled in the Orange Orchard are not the top Heracruses, ordinary people are not their opponents. Kokosi has been developing peacefully for a while until the appearance of rats. As the armed force of the world government, the navy is very large. The Grand Line, the 4 Seas, and any sea area have a navy. Even in the increasingly tense new world, the navy has retained the last bridgehead. The huge size has led to a huge difference in the quality of personnel within the navy, and in the 4 Seas, there are many stains in the navy. The colonel of the 153rd branch Manka, the colonel of the 16th branch Rat, these are all cancers in the East China Sea Navy. The emperor is far away from the mountains, and in these places, they are local emperors as branch supervisors. In the original timeline, he often accepted bribes from Eren, so he didn't care about Aren's rampant behavior in the 20 villages in the East China Sea. But in fact, he couldn't do anything about it, because he didn't have the strength to deal with the evil dragon. The branch colonels of the Grand Line are at the same level as the headquarters officers, and are also the main grassroots combat power of the navy. But the highest rank in the 4 Seas is generally colonel, and the headquarters must be downgraded by 3 levels. After eliminating some of the water from Mouse's strength, it is difficult for him to be a lieutenant in the headquarters. Although he is weak, Mouse's ambition is not small at all. Not long after taking office, he began to plan the gold mine in Kokosi. As the highest officer of the 16th branch, he has jurisdiction over the villages near Kokosi. Originally, the village of Kokosi also handed over part of the gold as tax, but Mouse was not satisfied with the amount, and he wanted all of it. He did not rob directly. He had to think about this matter. If it was really exposed, the Navy headquarters would certainly use him as a warning to others and maintain the reputation of the Navy, so he made some changes in sales. He used his power to make the gold mined in Kakaosi village unable to be sold, hoping that the people of Kakaosi would surrender and sell the gold to him at a low price. But he underestimated these people. The villages near Kakaosi were self-sufficient, and the gold would not disappear if kept in their hands, so they entered a confrontation with a mouse. Some time ago, his bribed boss sent him a letter of complaint and asked him to deal with it himself. It was a letter of complaint secretly written by Belmer and others. They bypassed the mouse, but they did not expect that the people above were also bought by the mouse. In this case, the mouse decided to use more drastic means. He planned to contact a group of pirates to rob the Kakaosi village. Because of the geographical location before, Kakaosi village did not encounter any pirates, but now the mouse planned to take the initiative to find the pirates. Originally, he chose Crick and wanted Crick to destroy the village, while he would secretly contact Smoker and let Smoker catch all the pirates. In this way, the gold is his, the merit is also his, and he can also use the pirates to kill those people. Unlike the ordinary East China Sea Navy, Smoker, as a natural ability user, has a certain dominance in the East China Sea, and is a rare Justice Navy. But when the mouse was about to act, Crick had entered the Grand Line, so he began to look for partners again, and found Buggy the Clown. Under the temptation of gold, Buddy agreed to this action, and caused considerable damage to Kakaosi. Heracross could not resist his special shells. They are insect type, not steel type or rock type. Those Pokémon with extremely strong defense can also be hurt by trained Navy soldiers with knives and guns. Pokémon are not invincible. To be precise, these Heracross are not invincible. Relying on the terrain of the mining area, the mining team is still guarding the gold mine. Heracross also started to mobilize people. At this time, including Hercule, dozens of scattered Heracrosses had gathered together. However, there were only 4 first-generation Heracrosses. Now these Heracrosses gathered together to discuss countermeasures, and Buggy's bounty order had been placed on the board. In their eyes, this was the most difficult enemy to deal with. Chapter 882, Miraculous Face Blindness. The bastard Buggy the Clown, Rat, actually colluded with the pirates. In the temporary operations department in the mine, Giant and Grilly slammed the table in front of him. They knew that Rat was very greedy, but they never thought that this Rat would choose to collude with pirates. As for how they knew, they did not completely exempt from taxes. After discovering the gold mine, Coca West Village was not an island occupied by pirates, but a place of residence under the East Sea Kingdom. After being attacked by pirates, they also contacted the Navy, but the message has not been responded to, and the Navy has not made any movement. This is not right no matter how you think about it. The Navy's contact channels are all the same. Unless you have the personal contact information of a branch chief, you must contact the nearest branch. It is very difficult for them to contact the superior Navy through Rat. Belmer, is your report really useful? I contacted an old friend. He owes me a life, so he shouldn't lie to me. Maybe the evidence is not enough, or the investigator is still on the way. For ordinary people, the Navy is a trustworthy group. Although Rat is a scum of the Navy, no one thought that his superiors also accepted bribes from Rat. But this guy actually teamed up with pirates. This evidence should be big enough. As long as we can find evidence of his teaming up with pirates, we can definitely get rid of this cancer. Boom. Boom. Before Belmer finished speaking, several explosions were heard, and the buggy pirates began to attack again. Let's talk about it later. Let's get rid of those hateful guys first. As a former Navy, Belmer also made a lot of efforts in the training of the mining protection team, so it is not a problem to prepare for a counterattack. Captain Buggy, are you not going to fight? Just some ordinary people. Do you want me to fight directly? This is a chance for you. If I fight, you won't have a chance to show off. Buggy said his reasons seriously, but in fact, it was because he was beaten up by 2 rhinoceros beetles in the battle yesterday. The split fruit can make him immune to slashes, but he can't be immune to the impact of Heracross. Relying on his special Buggy bullet, Buggy beat back the 2 Heracrosses, but he didn't know if there were other terrifying creatures hidden here, so he finally decided to let his brothers go to the mine. The mouse did not send anyone to participate in Buggy's action, but provided him with some obsolete munitions. The Navy's standard equipment is much stronger than what the pirates can get, which also put a lot of pressure on the guards of the gold mine. Although night fell, the battle had not stopped, and the Heracruses flew out in groups. Their bodies could not withstand artillery bullets, so they chose to fight at night. There are countless waste rocks in the mining area. One by one, Heracrus came to the sky above Buggy's camp with giant rocks, and launched a special airstrike. The huge rocks falling from the sky temporarily repelled these pirates, but did not resolve the crisis of the mine from the root. Buggy, far away from the mountains, set up camp again in an open space, as if planning something. Nami and Najiko also quietly slipped out of the mining area through a small path. They wanted to collect evidence of the rats and Buggy's cooperation. After all, it was the rats, not other people, who coveted this mine. If the rats were not eliminated, even if Buggy could be defeated, there might be other pirates later. Hey, I suddenly remembered that I have a disease that will kill me if I get close to the naval base, so, on the merry, Usopp trembled and hugged the mast of the ship, and made up all kinds of weird diseases. Don't be ridiculous. How can you be that sick? That's the Navy. The Navy. Are we going to charge directly into the Navy branch with just a few of us? No, we are just going to rescue Hercule. Luffy stroked his hat and said seriously. They came here with the other Heracruses, and they didn't know what happened. These two Heracruses met another Heracrus on the way, and got some news that Heracrus was captured by the Navy branch. Rat was not a fool. He knew that there were too difficult to handle rhinoceros beetles in the mine, so he captured some of the Hercules that were rushing there, intending to use them to force the rhinoceros beetles to surrender. Luffy, who didn't know the details, mistakenly thought that Hercule was one of them, so he decided to rescue Hercule. Usopp, you've already boarded the pirate ship. It's only a matter of time before you become an enemy of the Navy. Yeah, if you're so scared, you might as well go home. Don't you two want to persuade him? There should be a better way, right? Looking at Sanji and Zoro who were ready to fight, Usopp didn't understand what they were thinking. Huh? What are you talking about? This guy is the captain. Since you're on this ship, you have to obey the captain's orders. I don't know what the difference is between this and the previous branch. Wrapping the headscarf on his head, Zoro said his understanding very seriously. Sanji didn't refute him, but just lit a cigarette silently. Although he was afraid, in the end, Usopp still joined the ranks with a slingshot. But they didn't see Heracrus, but met Nami and Nikigo who were exposed. After they sneaked into the naval base, they found evidence of the rats' crime, but were discovered at the last moment. In the end, with the joint efforts of both sides, they successfully rescued the Heracrus and the base, and followed Nami and Nikigo to their gathering place. Hika. Damn, are you actually injured? In the mine, Luffy saw an injured Heracrus, and then rushed over crying. Hika? Ah, you are not Hika. There are so many Hekas here. The environment of the mine was a little dim, and the appearance of the Heracruses was similar. Luffy couldn't tell which one was his Hika for a while, and began to check these Heracruses one by one. Looking at this inexplicable two-legged beast, Heracrus's patience gradually reached its limit. At this time, the Heracruses who were fighting outside came back. Seeing Luffy, Hika was shocked. After a brief hesitation for a few seconds, he kicked Luffy in the waist. Hika? Great, you are okay. Hika? Hika's tone was very complicated. On the one hand, he was surprised that Luffy would catch up, and on the other hand, he was angry. At this time, his words can be simply summarized as, how dare you sail without this insect? Aren't you afraid of getting lost at sea? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 883. I suspect there is a traitor among us. Well, how did he recognize Hercules? These rhinoceros beetles all look the same. Watching the slightly weird reunion scene between Luffy and Hercules, Usopp thought about another question. Luffy might not even remember people's names and appearances clearly, and he basically relies on some special features to recognize people, such as Usopp's nose, Zoro's hair and earrings, and Sanji's eyebrows. but he can find Hercules among a group of identical Hercules. No, the difference is quite obvious. The patterns on the horns and shells of the rhinoceros beetles are different. You can see it if you look carefully. And the tastes are different too. They are quite picky about oranges. Usopp's words caused Nami and Nezuko to refute. In their opinion, it is not difficult to identify individual Hercules. That's because you've been together for too long, right, Zoro, Sanji? I don't care, it's no big deal. Whatever Ms. Nami and Ms. Nakiko say is right. One is indifferent to this, and the other has already fallen in love with him, which makes Usopp start to doubt again what his purpose is on this ship. Hero? What are you talking about, Hero? Aren't we companions? Your friend is my friend, how can I be left out of a fight? Luffy's thinking is very simple. He doesn't consider too many consequences when doing things. This person is his friend and his partner, so he will help the other person unconditionally. Luffy and Hero were chatting enthusiastically, but Nami and Nakiko were scolded by Bellmare. Bellmare thought that their behavior of breaking into the enemy camp without saying a word was to seek death. Once the behavior of mice and pirates colluding to harm civilians is discovered, it will inevitably be a devastating blow to him. In order to keep this secret, mice will definitely do whatever it takes. We're almost there. We're almost there to find evidence of his crime. Don't be silly. You can't find that kind of thing. Would you keep evidence of your dealings with pirates? Even if there is, he would have destroyed it long ago. This is very difficult to handle. Even if the pirates outside identify him, it's useless. The Navy won't believe the pirates' words. Ken didn't persuade Bellmare. Although they were not related by blood, he had already regarded the two sisters as his own daughters. He couldn't understand their risky behavior. But you clearly said before that there was evidence of his crime this time. We want to see if we can find evidence of his crime in the hands of those pirates. Boom. The explosion interrupted Bellmare's words again, and Buggy and others launched an attack here again. But this time was different from the previous one, because Luffy made a very simple judgment. Okay, I know, as long as we beat all these guys away, there will be no problem, right? Clenching his fist, Luffy took the lead to walk out of the mine, wanting to deal with the troubles here for Horoku, and then continue his voyage. Rubber balloon. Relying on his rubber body, Luffy bounced back the shells fired by Buggy, causing heavy casualties to his subordinates, who were also defeated by Zoro and Sanji. Although Buggy avoided many attacks with the split fruit, he found that a part of his body was missing after a split. Following his feeling, his body was already in the hands of Heracross. You bastard rhinoceros beetle. Give me back my body. Heracross didn't care about Buggy's roar, but flew away with part of his body, which made other Heracross understand how to deal with the enemy in front of them. In the following battle, Buggy's body continued to decrease. Whenever a piece of his body was knocked away, it would be taken away by other Heracross, making it impossible for him to continue to recover. In the end, only a dwarf Buggy was left, who was knocked away by a punch, and turned into a star in the sky, and flew to an unknown place. But when he was knocked away, the special Buggy bullet he fired caused a huge explosion. The huge impact made some pirates run away in the chaos, but most of the pirates were caught by the mining team. Although no key evidence was collected, they still decided to continue to report the behavior of the rat. The gold mine was temporarily stable. Buggy was also a top-tier pirate. The news of his defeat was enough to deter other pirates in the East China Sea. Because of the encounter in the 16th branch, Nami also boarded the Merry. Her dream was to draw a map of the world. This dream destined her to set sail sooner or later. This was just an opportunity. At the same time, she also wrote a new report letter, wanting to report the despicable behavior of the rat in Rogue Town. The happiest person for her to board the ship was not Sanji, but Hello, because there was finally a serious person who knew how to sail on the ship, and it no longer needed the Zoro compass to guide the direction, and there was no need to worry about the people on the ship accidentally drowning at sea. Although Bellmare and Ken had some complaints, they finally respected Nami's choice. After the incident with Kakashi was over, the Merry, with a formal navigator, set out on the journey again. As a reward for defeating Buggy, Luffy also got a lot of equipment. He seized the nautical chart to the Grand Line from Buggy's ship, which gave the Straw Hat Pirates a clear direction to move forward. But before entering the Grand Line, they coincidentally met a girl named Abyss and got to know the Millennium Dragon called Dragon Lord, and finally decided to send Dragon Lord to the Dragon Cave. Felon, it's time to arrive this time. We are here, right here, where our Millennium Dragons gather. It looks like we should have arrived earlier. Above the clouds, Yamato and others finally arrived at the destination of this trip, the gathering place of the Millennium Dragons. After circling in the sky for a few times, Felon did not detect the breath of other Millennium Dragons, but when they rushed down the clouds, they saw a completely different picture from what they expected. However, Yamato did not see the Dragon Island mentioned by Felon, but saw several warships instead. Have these Navy discovered our destination and are waiting for us? Looking at the warships below, Yamato came up with a very special logic. How is it possible? There are only 3 of us here who could have leaked the news to the Navy, etc. Why are you looking at me like that? Looking at Yamato's eyes, Ulti suddenly felt something was wrong. Is there a possibility that you, Chan, are too bored, so you deliberately passed the information to the Navy and let them get here early? Can you be more normal? Who would do such a boring thing? Among the 3 of us, the most likely person to do such a thing is you. Also, don't call me by such a corny name. Chapter 884. You can always trust your captain, Fog. If someone else said this to her, Ulti would think that the other person was joking, but it was Yamato who said this. If it was her, she would probably really think so. The cabin was noisy again for a while, but this did not affect the pace of the Millennium Dragon. The cloud cover prevented the warships below from discovering the Millennium Dragon tribe above, and the Millennium Dragons also deviated in direction, surpassing the warships below and flying away. The sky at this time also became strange. From a distance, there was no difference between here and the sea outside, but when they got closer, they found that this was a special phantom like a mirage. The Millennium Dragon in front disappeared from everyone's sight after crossing this sea area. Hey, is there such a special sea area in the East China Sea? I thought only the weather in the Grand Line was so weird. Although it was novel, this kind of thing was not strange to Yamato. The special thing about the new world is not only the unpredictable weather, but also the magical composition of the islands. In addition to the weird weather like knife rain, some islands are full of invisible air bridges. It seems that there is nothing there, but people can run freely on them. The gravity environment of some islands is very special, and some islands are even made entirely of food. All this is attributed to the magic of the Grand Line. Now it seems that she underestimated this world. Farron, is this your Dragon Island? It looks a bit desolate. After passing through a stormy area, a desolate island appeared in everyone's sight. If this is the destination of their journey, it is still quite disappointing for Yamato. There were 2 roars from Farron's father, and Farron began to translate his father's words. Father said this is the island he often visited when he was a child. At that time, there was an ancient human dynasty here. Because of the mirage-like barrier of the outside world, the people living here secluded themselves from the world and had nothing to do with the disputes of the outside world. Our tribe often passed by here. Those people regarded us who could fly as mysterious creatures and respected us very much, but now everything is different. The lifespan of a 1000-year dragon is very long. Some people have never seen their true appearance in their entire lives. For the older 1000-year dragons in this tribe, this island is a small store at the doorstep. After running around for several years, when they go home, they always want to go in and take a look to find some childhood memories, but the return date of the 1000-year dragon is too far away for humans. When they come back again, the place has already changed. By the way, it looks like a castle. Father said that it used to be the kingdom of humans, and there are some very interesting murals inside. If you are interested, you can go and see it. At this moment, a group of birds flew past them, and it seemed that they took the initiative to approach after seeing the 1000-year dragon. Although the size is similar to that of an ordinary bird, it looks somewhat similar to the original body of the Millennium Dragon. Farron, is this your cub? No, haven't you seen the children of the tribe? They are much bigger than these birds. This is just another kind of bird that has a common ancestor with us, but they have always lived here. No, there are others on this island. A puff of dust floated on the island, and an unidentified object was rushing down from the top of the island at high speed. If you look closely, you can see a figure that looks like a Millennium Dragon on a flatbed cart. This is Luffy and his party who escorted Lord Long back to the Dragon Cave. According to Lord Long's guidance, they also came to this island, but it was still some time before the Dragon Cave appeared, and the location here was also a little offset from the Dragon Cave, so they did not find the destination. Moreover, Lord Long has been hunted by others, and at this time, those who coveted the Millennium Dragon's bones also caught up, so Luffy and others would rush down from the top with Lord Long at high speed, and Zoro would be responsible for the rear. Are they doing something new? Grass skiing? Who knows, but it's good to be able to move around. Let's go, Ziope, we are going to rappel. After Ulti unbuckled her seatbelt and opened the door of the carriage, she held her collar with one hand and put her other hand around Peggy 1's neck and jumped down. They were originally accompanying the Millennium Dragon home, and now there was a special situation below, and there was also a strange Millennium Dragon. No matter how she thought about it, she would not ignore it. Ulti pulled Peggy 1 and jumped down directly. No, sister, can't you get a parachute yourself? No, that's too slow, and it's not as convenient as you. Ziope, you're the best. I don't want you to praise me for this at all. Although she complained about her sister's improper behavior, Peggy 1 still obeyed, or rather, doted on her and cooperated. As time accumulated, they became more and more proficient in transformation, and they completed the transformation in the blink of an eye. Powerful airflow gushed out from the gaps in the scales, and Page 1 rushed towards the ground. Ulti also took advantage of the wind resistance caused by the descent to get on Page 1's back and grasped his dorsal fin very skillfully. Millennium Dragon and Steel Armored Crow also flew downwards, but they were much slower than Ulti and Page 1. After all, Page 1 was flying in a jet and was going straight down. I feel like I'm the fastest person in the world now. On the small cart where Long Yi was, Usopp's scream spread across the island with the sound of the wind. What's the point of that? Sanji did not agree with Usopp's idea. In his opinion, it was meaningless. Shut up, Luffy, find a way to stop it. This cart will fall apart before we even get to the ship. It's okay, just trust me, it'll be fine. Don't trust me. Nami, you asked the wrong person. Hello, think of a way. Instead of asking Luffy about this kind of trouble, it's better to ask Hello. It's at least more reliable than Luffy. But their panic didn't last long. Someone helped them stop the cart. Boom. Page 1, who fell from the sky, inserted his feet into the ground, crossed his arms in front of him, and used the fins on his body like a shield to stop the speeding cart. It was not difficult to stop this cart alone, but while stopping it, Page 1 used his clever strength to resolve the impact force on it, so that the cart did not fall apart. This time, he demonstrated his control of strength. You guys. Cool. Huh. Looking at Luffy and Usopp with stars in their eyes, Page 1's words were blocked before he could say them. Chapter 885. Eyes full of caring, old relatives of the Millennium Dragon. Page 1's Garchomp was transformed from the Spinosaurus fruit, and was originally a large-sized type. Page 1 was one of the few top-rank numbered people who, like Jack, preferred the beast form. Now in his beast form, he is about 6 meters tall. Because the wings, that look like shark pectoral fins grow on his forearms, Garchomp looks like a jet when he folds his body and stretches his wings. Now he stands upright, very similar to a transformed jet fighter. Both this feature and Garchomp's appearance have excited Luffy and Usopp. Although they knew that there were mysterious objects called devil fruits in the sea because of Luffy, they didn't know that devil fruits were divided into 3 major categories in detail. Page 1 was the first animal type ability user they had seen. You two, be normal. This is not a friendly force at all. Sanji hammered Luffy and Usopp on the head with both hands, hoping that the two would be normal, but the next moment, he became one of the abnormal people. Ziope, what are you waiting for? Ah, beautiful lady, what is the matter with you stopping us? Boom. Sanji also joined Luffy and Usopp, and was punched by Nami from behind. Sister, what do you think should be done next? Page 1 was confused by the other party's abnormal behavior. In the new world, the people he faced were either afraid or arrogant. This was the first time someone said he was cool. He was only 18 years old this year, and his vanity was slightly satisfied. Wow. The dinosaurs are talking. Luffy, did you hear it? That's even cooler. Where can I catch a dinosaur like this? It seems to be able to fly. If I can raise one, it must be super cool. Ahem. I heard that there are many dinosaurs like this on an island. Looking at Usopp bragging seriously, and Luffy listening to him seriously, a new idea came to page 1's mind. Are these two fools? He never showed mercy to his enemies, but the fool made him a little embarrassed to start. Fortunately, at this time, Yamato and the Millennium Dragons also fell down. Thousands of Millennium Dragons. So many Millennium Dragons. Hey, are you here to take Lord Long home? Seeing the Millennium Dragons such as Farron appearing here, the fear in Abyss's heart was swept away. She is the descendant of the residents of the ancient dynasty mentioned by Farron's father, and she met Lord Long by chance. She was not attracted by the reward for the Millennium Dragon, but began to do her best to protect Lord Long. Luffy and others made the decision to escort Lord Long because of her. She herself is the ability user of the Whispering Fruit. Although there is no increase in combat power, it can allow her to communicate with any animal, so there is no obstacle to communicating with the Millennium Dragon. Lord Long, look, your companions are here to pick you up. The old Lord Long raised his head and looked at the Millennium Dragons around him, and a few tears flowed from his eyes. Roar. One of the Millennium Dragons wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Long Yi. Then, Farron's father came over. Looking at this Millennium Dragon, Long Yi seemed to recall something. Abyss, what are they talking about? Due to the appearance of the Millennium Dragon, Peggy 1 and the others did not do anything, but just listened to a group of Millennium Dragons communicating there, but the presence of Abyss saved Farron the effort of acting as a translator. That Millennium Dragon seems to be an old acquaintance of Long Yi. Millennium Dragons have different tribes all over the world, but when Dragon Island appeared, they still met here, which led to that, even if they were not from the same tribe, they would have some relationship, or even knew each other before. Old man, why are you here? And it's a little early. I'm afraid. It's too late. Wait, Long Yi, didn't you say that your illness can be cured when you reach the Dragon Cave? Your companions are here, don't worry anymore, they will definitely take you back, right? Abyss noticed something unusual in Long Yi's words, but Long Yi just reassured her, and didn't say anything else. Only the other Millennium Dragons knew that the Dragon Lord's time was almost up. Now it was just holding on, waiting for Dragon Island to reappear. Hey, what are you guys wasting time on here? Why don't you leave? Zoro's figure appeared from the side, followed by Eric, who had been chasing after the Dragon Lord. He had also heard of the legend that the Millennium Dragon's bones could make people immortal, so he teamed up with the Navy to hunt down the Millennium Dragon in order to obtain the coveted bones. Zoro had stayed there before just to delay time. Looking at the many Millennium Dragons present, Eric's face was also filled with a greedy smile. In his eyes, these were countless dragon bones. If he could get them all, his wish would be fulfilled. Roar. Ah, I see. Really, your old man always troubles me when he has something to do. Miss Yamato, you and your father should send Lord Long to Dragon Island first. I will catch up after I deal with this guy. It doesn't seem to matter if we wait. Anyway, there is plenty of time. It won't take much time to deal with this guy. The first voice was Lord Long talking about the enemy, and the second voice was from Farron's father asking his son to teach that guy a lesson. The environment will affect the behavior of intelligent creatures. Living with all kinds of beasts for a long time, Farron's tribe is also the most violent among the Millennium Dragons. For those who want to hunt dragon bones, they will never show mercy. The Millennium Dragon can talk too. No, it has become a dragon man. Abyss, can't Lord Long transform? Let it transform and see. Looking at Farron transforming from the Millennium Dragon form to the Dragon Man form, Luffy became excited again. He saw too many interesting things today. Dragon Lord never said that a 1,000-year-old dragon can turn into a human. Before Luffy and the others could finish their words, Eric had already taken action. In his opinion, a 1,000-year-old dragon is a very nourishing animal, and a 1,000-year-old dragon that can turn into a human is a 1,000-year-old dragon that has become a spirit. The medicinal effect of the dragon bones of such a 1,000-year-old dragon must be even stronger. With a wave of his finger, several sickle weasels flew out from his fingertips and slashed in the direction of Farron. Be careful. This was a reminder from Zoro. For him now, Eric was a very difficult enemy to deal with. The sickle weasels in his hand were extremely fast and powerful, and even he had a hard time dealing with them. But Farron did not evade at all and walked past Eric's attack. Since you have accompanied the old man all the way, I will let you know what real strength is. Chapter 886. One Piece. It won't be yours. Eric is a mercenary by profession and also a bounty hunter, but in most cases, he is hired by the Navy. A Komeitachi who possesses the superhuman Komeitachi fruit can release powerful Komeitachi slashes through his fingers. The sharp Komeitachi can easily smash rocks, and there is no need to charge. As long as his hand speed is fast enough, he can release countless powerful wind blades. Of course, this also has disadvantages. While raising the lower limit of attack, Eric's upper limit of attack is also locked. Even if he charges, he cannot increase the power of his Komeitachi. He can only increase the power of his attack through quantity. He can release a large number of Komeitachi to form a Komeitachi tornado, but the power of each Komeitachi has not increased. It is extremely difficult for him to achieve qualitative change. Such an ability is very difficult in the East China Sea, but for the Millennium Dragon fighting in the New World, Eric's attack is not painful. No matter how strong or how many attacks cannot break the defense, it is meaningless. As a user of the primitive man fruit and the ancestral bird, Farron is a rare dual ability user among all beasts, not to mention the body of the beast Millennium Dragon. To put it another way, Longli is the second uncle at the entrance of the village who saw his father being born and lived with him for a period of time. Although he doesn't know him, he is a relative after all. If he insists on counting, he might call Longli the seventh uncle. Now someone has sent the old and weak seventh uncle back to his hometown. He doesn't need to express anything, but it's okay to pour a glass of water. It's enough for them to let these people understand the gap in the world. He is not Kaido, and he is not interested in teaching people every day. It's enough to help them open their eyes. I've let you fight for so long, you should have had enough, right? Eric's sickle weasel fruit essentially swings a transparent wind blade, and wind has no color. His opponents can generally only barely see the changes in the shape of the air, and many enemies can't react to his attack. But Farron is different. He doesn't even have a prejudgment. He is simply using his physical strength to resist his attack. To outsiders, it looked like Eric was waving his fingers constantly while Farron was slowly approaching him. Seeing that the situation was not good, Eric ran back, trying to distance himself from Farron. But as Farron's wings fluttered, he appeared in front of Eric again. Where do you want to go? Boom. Eric was punched by Farron with his right fist, and he stopped after breaking through several walls of the ruins. Sister Yamato, let me do it. A guy like that will be enough in one go. Seeing Farron playing with Eric like a cat playing with a mouse, Peggy 1 couldn't wait any longer. There was no point in playing with a too weak opponent. Forget it. This is the business of the Millennium Dragon. There's nothing wrong with letting them do it themselves. Besides, it's not difficult for Farron to deal with that guy. He probably doesn't want this little girl to see too bloody a scene. Yamato didn't think Farron would overturn in such a place, and the sound coming from the ruins was getting smaller and smaller, which meant something. Hika at this time, Hika was also flying up and down beside Yamato, telling Yamato something. Really? It sounds like you're doing well. You seem to be very familiar with Hika. Hika has never been so close to other strangers. That's for sure. After all, it's Heracross. Whether it's the power of Tokiwa or the special identity of her own, the first generation Pokemon born on Onigashima has a special affinity for Yamato, and Hika is still complaining. Although Yamato hasn't shown it yet, some people are already in trouble. It was also on this day that Luffy officially heard the racial name of Heracross from others. He had heard Hika mentioned this word before, but he didn't know much about this special transliteration word. Originally, Luffy had some questions about Hika, but the returning Farron interrupted him. It's been taken care of. with Dragon Lord. Yamato and the others went to Luffy's Merry with Dragon Lord. Dragon Lord was very weak now, and it was too difficult for him to fly by himself. Dragon Lord also wanted to go to Dragon Island with Abyss, so Yamato and the others did not take Dragon Lord to fly. Luffy, who had a big heart, didn't care about this kind of thing. Abyss's mind was all on Dragon Lord, and Usopp and Nami didn't notice any problems, but just thought that the other party was very strong. But Sanji and Zoro were different. Hey, pervert, that guy was gone for less than 3 minutes, right? Even shorter. The Millennium Dragon is too strong. Eric is no match for him. He doesn't seem to want Abyss to see anything too cruel, otherwise he would kill her instantly. But what? Those two ladies are so beautiful. You bastard. Zoro and Sanji looked at these strangers warily from behind. Yamato was still chatting with Heracross. Luffy and Usopp were pestering Page 1, asking him how he did his cool transformation. That kind of innocence from the heart can't deceive people. With his vanity satisfied, Page 1 explained to them the classification of devil fruits. There are 3 types of devil fruits. You eat the ordinary superhuman type, and there are also natural and animal types. I eat the rare mythical beast type. So that's how it is. It looks so powerful. Some things can't be deceived. For example, in a crowd, you can see at a glance the eyes of some innocent college students who have not yet integrated into society. Luffy is in this situation now. His performance is really the same as that of an ordinary little fan. They got along relatively harmoniously for a while, until they came to the beach again. So you are also pirates? Yes, by the way, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Luffy, and I'm the man who wants to become the Pirate King. A very classic speech came out of Luffy's mouth, but the only thing that reached his ears was the laughter of Ulti in Page 1. Okay, Ziope, Ulchan, stop laughing. It's okay for others to have dreams. Although they can't realize them, we still respect them. Yamato didn't laugh at the other party, and his words didn't mean to mock, but the damage index was not less. Hey, what makes you say I can't be the Pirate King? It's simple, because the one who is going to be the Pirate King is my father. This is the final consensus of the Beast's pirates. No matter whether it is Yamato who wants to overthrow his father every day, or Ulti who dares to tell Kaido that he is a fool to his face, they all have a common understanding in their hearts that the next Pirate King must be Kaido. Chapter 887. The Rinking's assistant is online. Putting aside the facts, this is the common belief of all the members of the pirate group. There are various reasons for joining the beasts. Except for those who were picked up by Kaido, most of them were attracted by his strength. Many people had fantasized about becoming the Pirate King before going to sea, but when they saw the cruelty of reality and realized their own gap, they transferred their past dreams to the captain they admired. Not only the beasts, but even Whitebird, who had no interest in the position of Pirate King, had the same voice in his pirate group. In the eyes of the members of the Whitebird pirates, only Whitebird could become the Pirate King. Even Whitebird, who had no interest in this, could not avoid the pirates under his command from having such emotions, let alone Kaido, who was already interested in the great secret treasure. And making Kaido the Pirate King is also one of Yamato's goals now. After losing the Horcrux of a certain Odin, she is quite normal, except that she is a bit stubborn. And the Pirate King is not her ideal. Her goal is to defeat Kaido head on with hard power, and then rectify the Order of the Beasts as the second generation of the Beasts, to create a situation she wants to see. However, outsiders will not be allowed to interfere in this battle between father and daughter. No matter how hard they fight, it is an internal fight among the beasts. No matter who wins or loses, it is ultimately the beast's problem. Letting outsiders intervene will change the nature. In fact, in addition to the increasingly inflated overall strength, Kaido is still getting stronger. In the original timeline, he was called the strongest creature because he could not be killed. Although he constantly challenged the other 4 emperors in the navy, he mostly fled after being defeated and came again after a while. Now he defeats his opponents or retreats calmly after his interest disappears, and the strongest creature has become more worthy of the title. Even the historical text of the necessary signposts to Raftel, Kaido has already obtained 3 pieces of information, and is the person closest to the Pirate King in the true sense. Although Luffy shouted that he was the man who wanted to become the Pirate King, Yamato was not angry, but just found it interesting. This is not Onigashima. If someone breaks into Onigashima and shouts that sentence there, it is no different from declaring war, and there will definitely be a stick. If someone could enter Onigashima, it is impossible for him not to know that it is Kaido's territory. If he said that knowingly, what would happen to him would depend on Kaido's mood. Of course, according to the current situation, if an enemy could really enter Onigashima, the first person he would have to face would be the Furious Queen. That means someone has crossed the defense line he set up, which is a great insult to his achievements over the years and a great threat to his life. But it's different here. A group of ordinary pirates who are just starting out and haven't even entered the Grand Line shouted such words, and Yamato and others would only treat it as a joke. People always have dreams, or in other words, dreams will never disappear at any time. Even in the new world, there are still many people who are obsessed with the title of Pirate King. If everyone who shouted this sentence was to be beaten, she might have just arrived at Fishman Island. Your father? But I still won't lose. The one who will become Pirate King in the end will definitely be he. Heracross on the side suddenly hit Luffy's head with a heavy chop. Due to his rubber man characteristics, he almost smashed him into a round pancake. As the external brain of the Straw Hat Pirates, it thinks it is necessary to shut up Luffy to avoid any unnecessary conflicts. What? You don't believe me either? I have been working hard for this goal for a long time. Okay, just tell a joke once. It's boring to hear it too much. Didn't the battle just now make you realize the gap? Yamato didn't care much, and page 1 didn't take it to heart, but Ulti, who had the most irritable personality, felt annoyed when she heard him nagging that sentence. Ul-chan, it's not good to be so irritable. Huh. I want this kid to understand the cruelty of the world in advance. This is for their own good. Didn't Farron do the same thing just now? And the only one who can become the Pirate King is Captain Kaido. As soon as the voice fell, Ulti's figure disappeared from the spot as if teleporting. When everyone saw her again, she had come to Luffy's side and pressed him on the deck of the Merry with one hand. Damn, it hurts. I'm made of rubber, how could I be hurt? You naive kid should just dream of becoming the Pirate King in the East China Sea. With your 2 tricks, how can you challenge the throne? Without transforming, Ulti completely suppressed Luffy with one hand. With their strength, even Farron is invincible in the East China Sea. Transforming is completely unnecessary. Farron chose to transform before, just to fight as a human, and page 1 did it to fly. If it was just to fight, relying on one's own body would be enough. Ulti's sudden change of attitude and the rubber man being hurt made the Straw Hat people on the ship unable to react. It all happened too quickly. They didn't know that this seemingly gentle girl was actually the most stubborn among the beasts today. Even Reckless Jack might not be as good as her. This was because Yamato and page 1 had a good chat with them before. Otherwise it would not just be pressed to the ground. Zoro and Sanji were on alert. Abyss was at a loss. Nami and Usopp hid in fear. Page 1 looked helpless. And Heracross was anxious. All kinds of people appeared on the ship at once. Don't worry. We are not interested in being your enemies. And you are not qualified. We are just here to witness the dragon's lair of the Millennium Dragon. Chan is right. You are not good enough in the Grand Line. Of course, it's up to you whether you believe it or not. Farron, is the time coming soon? Yamato waved his hand casually, not treating them as enemies, but asking Farron about the time. It's almost time, and we should leave too. Well, if that Dragon Master can't fly now, let's try another method. What Yamato has mastered the most in these years is not the power of Zekrom, but the power of the transformed Kairam. At the beginning, Arceus used her big mouth True God as a carrier to transform a brand new Kairam body. At first, she only had the power of the original Great Mouth True God. It was not until now that Kairam's power showed the tip of the iceberg. Ice world. The power in her body began to rotate, and an extremely cold force burst out from her body and began to spread along the soles of her feet. As the name of the skill suggests, whether it is an island or a sea, under the influence of Yamato's power, it has become a new world of ice. Chapter 888, Frozen World, Reshaped World View. lightning strikes and interlaced lightning, blue flames and interlaced flames. These are the exclusive moves of Zekrom and Leshiram. As a body, Kyurem naturally has her own exclusive moves. The Frozen World released by Yamato at this time is a powerful skill released after she becomes more and more proficient in this power. When Kyurem was used by the plasma group, even if she was imprisoned, the power of the explosion was enough to freeze the entire Shuanglang city. As an important city in the Unova region, Shuanglang city has a very large area, at least much larger than this ordinary island. Rocks, land, grass, islands and everything nearby were frozen at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a few blinks of an eye, the temperature dropped sharply, and even snowflakes began to float in the sky. As Kyurem's exclusive move, it has a terrifying power that is enough to change the celestial phenomena. Even if it is still a sunny day, the water molecules in the air are transformed into ice crystals and slowly fall under the influence of extreme cold. Even the Mary was covered with frost, but the Dragon Lord was not frozen around him, which shows that Yamato has become more and more proficient in mastering the power. Applying the logic of a swordsman, it is not easy to cut anything than to cut everything. Compared with destruction, protection is more difficult. Hey, what are you doing? Is it necessary to make such a big noise? It's freezing. Ulti tightened the cloak behind her with one hand, and her voice was slightly dissatisfied. Although this huge temperature difference would not affect her, she still felt very uncomfortable. It's not that the Dragon Lord is not easy to move, so we can just drag it out. What nonsense are you talking about? This is the sea. Isn't it the same if the raft floats on the water and is pulled over? Sneeze. Damn it, no matter how you think about it, it's your problem. It's almost done. Wait, I'll find you a blanket. Rummaging through her bag, Yamato took out a thick blanket. Her bag was stuffed with all kinds of strange things, and most of the time you could find all kinds of daily necessities. No need, Ziope and I can just squeeze in. It's time to get down to business. Do you still want to waste time here? That's right, little girl. If you want to see Lord Long, just follow me. Don't worry, if no one disturbs these ice, it will be fine to freeze for 4 or 5 days. It's very solid. Seeing that the time was about to run out, she didn't continue to linger here. They were just passers-by who met by chance. Even if he brought Heracross with him, it only showed that he was not a bad person by nature, and it didn't mean anything. He and Farron took the Millennium Dragon and stepped onto the ice. The group walked towards the outer sea. 30 million bales is a good bounty in the East China Sea, but there are many pirates like you in the Grand Line. If you still hold this mentality, you'd better disband. Due to the vanity of the young man, Page 1 said a few more words to the trembling Usopp when he left the rear guard. Luffy's bounty has changed to some extent. It is no longer the silly smiley face, but the picture left when they broke into the 16th branch. Even Zoro and Sanji have some limbs in the photo, which looks more like a hodgepodge. Just now, Page 1 accidentally scanned the bounty, so this sentence came out. Abyss caught up with the cart pulling the Dragon Lord as early as when Yamato left. The 1,000-year-old dragons flying around made her let down her guard and choose to take the risk to follow, while most of the Straw Hat pirates were stunned in place, not knowing what to do. Hawkeye let Zoro see what the world's #1 swordsman is, but Zoro knew that there was a gap between him and the world, but he didn't expect it to be so big. After appreciating the combat power of the ceiling level swordsman, he had a new goal to strive for, but Yamato's appearance further refreshed their understanding of the world. She did nothing, just a step, and the whole island was covered with ice, and even the turbulent sea fell into a static era. Eric, who had been very difficult for them to deal with before, was easily dealt with. This made them doubt the future. What kind of terrifying things would they encounter along the way? At this time, Luffy sat up again and looked at the frozen sea. He knew that the Merry would not be able to move for a while, but he still walked towards the direction of Lord Long. Wait. Luffy, what are you going to do? To see where Lord Long's Dragon Island is. Those people heroes said they are not bad people. I believe in Hercule. Although they are very strong, I will not give up. Or, are you all scared? Straightening his hat, Luffy still chose to follow. Seeing that he was still full of confidence, the corners of Zoro and Sanji's mouths also rose. This is the captain they are optimistic about. Well, I suddenly remembered that I have a disease that will kill me if I step on the ice. Wait, I can walk by myself. Usopp's objection was meaningless after all, and he was carried by the two to follow. Only Nami and Hello, who were left behind, had sad faces and looked at the group of people in front of them with worry. Outside the Mirage, several warships have lost their ability to move. The target of these Navy ships is also the Millennium Dragon, or in other words, the target of these Navy admirals is the Millennium Dragon, and Eric came here after accepting his employment. Admiral Nelson, all the warships can't move. The ice is very thick, and it is very difficult to destroy it. An obese Navy sat on a large warship. He was Admiral Nelson in the Navy's mouth. Nelson Roy, the Admiral of the 8th branch of the Navy. Monka and Mouse at least have the body shape of ordinary people, but Nelson has become completely fat like a bull. Except for the tattoo on his belly and the coat on his back, it is impossible to tell that such a person is actually the Admiral of the Navy branch. In fact, this is exactly the case. He is so obese that he almost lost the ability to move normally. Take me over there to have a look. Yes. 6 soldiers lifted the chair that Nelson was sitting on with difficulty and took him to the side of the ship so that he could observe the ice surface carefully. Strange, why did the sea freeze suddenly? Is Admiral Aokiji taking action here? In the East China Sea, the Navy is the group that knows the world the most. As the leaders of the branch, they have a certain understanding of the highest generals of the headquarters. Even if they have never met them, they have a certain understanding of their names and abilities. The ability to freeze the sea has always been exclusive to Kuzan in the eyes of the Navy. This also gave Nelson a headache. If Kuzan was really here, many things would be troublesome, but he didn't know that the trouble he encountered was much more serious than Kuzan. Chapter 889 The Turbulent and Exploding East China Sea. Kuzan would at most put him in jail, but Yamato and the others would sink him directly. But greed soon took over Nelson's heart because he saw the Millennium Dragon. In addition to the weakly lying Dragon Lord on the cart, the Millennium Dragon tribe flying in the sky made his face full of greed, and the fat on his body trembled because of it. Hey, dragon bones, so many dragon bones. The fat on his body did not appear out of thin air, but relied on the identity of the Admiral of the 8th branch, and nourished under years of corrupt life. When he enjoyed a lot of things that ordinary people could not enjoy, he also became more obsessed with life. The dragon bones of the Millennium Dragon became his goal. Looking at so many Millennium Dragons, desire was already burning in his body. Fire! Shoot down all those Millennium Dragons. It doesn't matter if they are dead, as long as there are dragon bones. As long as the bones are handled properly, the time of preservation is very long. For Nelson, who only needs dragon bones, the life and death of the Millennium Dragon is irrelevant. Before Eric was dealt with by Farron, Nelson received his message, so he surrounded the fleet of the entire branch. These warships were not the large warships used by the Navy headquarters to execute the demon killing order, but just ordinary small warships of the Four Seas branch. Nelson connected all the warships together with iron chains to form an iron chain defense line. However, due to the frozen world of Yamato, this place has been completely frozen, and those warships have been trapped on the ice, and can only adjust their artillery to shoot. Oh, aren't these the Navy from before? They really came for the Millennium Dragon. Isn't this obvious? But these guys are so annoying. Can I sink those ships? Ulti kicked away the shells fired by the other side, and looked at those warships with dissatisfaction. She had been idle for a while, and it was time for her to get itchy hands. These Navy were just sandbags delivered to her door. Whatever, they are also hunting down the Millennium Dragon, so they are enemies. Hold back your conqueror's haki. These guys can't stand your conqueror's haki. If you kill them all, there will be no fun. Conqueror's haki has always been a good helper to clean up the miscellaneous soldiers, and the human wave tactics have no meaning at all against the owner of Conqueror's haki. Since the trial of the dragon space can enhance the strength of Conqueror's haki, given the average quality of the East China Sea Navy, it is impossible to escape the fate of being wiped out. You don't have to worry about this. There will be opportunities for you to fight later. If it doesn't work, I will let my father fight with you after returning to Onigashima. Shut up. Who wants to fight with your stupid father? You should suffer that punishment yourself. Ziope, you on the left, I on the right. Let's see who fights better. Hearing Yamato talking about Kaido, even Ulti shuddered. Even she had a serious psychological shadow on Kaido's teaching, and all the top carders in the beasts had a deep understanding of this. Especially Quinn, as a victim who can be ranked with Yamato. Kaido's 8 precepts left too many marks on him. The ice surface created by Yamato provided a perfect battlefield. While talking, Ulti rushed towards the enemy's warships. At the same time, the Millennium Dragon also launched an airstrike on these navy. As a member of the Beast Air Cavalry, they often fought with the navy in the posture of the ancestral bird. Even if they are now in the form of the Millennium Dragon, they can still cause great trouble to these navy. Ship number 1 on the starboard side was attacked. Ship number 9 on the port side was attacked. The defense line was broken. After being frozen, these warships lost the ability to move. Facing the flying Millennium Dragon, these warships almost became live targets. Counterattack. Everyone counterattack. I will exile anyone who dares to retreat to a deserted island. Hearing the news that the fleet was attacked, Nelson began to order his navy to counterattack. Although he was bloated, compared with those termites in the East China Sea, his ability was actually stronger. The 8th branch at least has a large-scale naval fleet and has a good combat capability in the East China Sea. Nelson's Iron Chain tactics is an example. Most pirates in the East China Sea cannot deal with Nelson's fleet of the 8th branch. Unfortunately, the matching mechanism this time is very poor, even more disgusting than the yellow mechanism. He directly encountered a group of tourists from the New World who came out to bomb fish. In addition to the Millennium Dragons that launched an airstrike, his fleet also had to face 2 surprise attacks. From the beginning of the battle, Nelson's ears were constantly bad news. Warships were destroyed every minute, and the fleet he relied on for survival on weekdays became weak at this time. Even with Nelson's orders, his soldiers showed a trend of disintegration. What's going on? What's going on? How many enemies are there? Admiral, except for those Millennium Dragons, there are only 2 enemies. 2 people. How is it possible? 2 people defeated my fleet. In a panic, Nelson accidentally fell from his seat. The heavy tonnage made it impossible for him to sit up. He had to rely on the support of the soldiers to adjust his posture again. Who is it? Haven't you found their information yet? Are you the Admiral, you fat pig? Looks like I won. The chain connecting the hull swung, and Ulti had already arrived on Nelson's ship, holding a bloody meteor hammer in her hand, but the hammer handle was also hard, more like a combination of mace and a meteor hammer. It doesn't matter if you win, sister, you didn't say what would happen if you win. Page 1 followed closely, and landed from the other side of the ship, looking at Ulti with a nonchalant look on her face. There was no bet on the outcome, and whoever won would not affect anything. It was not until this time that the intelligence officer in the warship ran out of the cabin in a panic with the intelligence of the 2 people, but when he saw the 2 people who had broken through to the main ship, he couldn't help but feel weak at the feet, and the 2 bounty orders slipped away. His speed was not slow. Since the beginning of the Great Pirate Era, the number of pirates on the sea has been increasing day by day. Even in the East China Sea, there are countless people with bounties of millions. As a local branch stationed in the East Sea, their intelligence is all about these new pirates, and they don't pay much attention to the pirates in the New World. They are not as recognizable as Kaido, and neither Ulti nor Page 1 are interested in engraving the pirate flag on their bodies, so they delayed their time. But when they figured out each other's identities, they became more helpless. Beasts Pirates, Ulti, Bounty, 470 million Baileys. Beasts Pirates, Page 1. Bounty, 350 million Baileys. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 890 Kuzan, Save Me. Because of being plowed too many times, the average bounty in the East China Sea is only 3 million Baileys. The bounty of 3 million Baileys means that the bounty criminal himself has no special ability. At most, he is a little stronger. Most of his strength depends on external objects, and only on things like artillery or armor. The flesh has not been tempered, and he does not have very strong skills. As long as there is a chance, an ordinary soldier can shoot him to death. Facing such an enemy, the human wave tactics can usually work wonders. This is also the enemy that the East China Sea Navy faces most often. Not to mention the bounty of over 100 million. The pirates with a bounty of over 10 million have to consider carefully before taking action. Otherwise click would not have been rampant in the East China Sea for so long. 470 million and 350 million. The bounties of these two people have exceeded 100 times the average amount in the East China Sea. Unless they are equipped with Seraph, a product that is still in the laboratory, conventional weapons have long lost their effectiveness. Why are you so flustered? Are you scared by this? I will send you to a deserted island later. Looking at the fallen soldier, Nelson's fat face showed a trace of contempt. As a member of Nelson's fleet, how could you? How could you? With a bang, Nelson fell from his seat. His overly fat belly caused him to lose his balance and he couldn't get up for a while. Just now, the bounty that fell on the deck was blown up by the sea breeze. His peripheral vision swept over the amounts on the bounties of Ulti and Page 1. The 9-digit amounts choked all his words. His fat body moved laboriously on the deck, and Nelson finally got the two bounties. 10 billion. The fat on his body trembled a few times, and sweat flowed down Nelson's face. A pool of liquid quickly gathered under his body. It seemed that in addition to sweat, there were also a lot of other liquids mixed in. TSK, it's so disgusting. Ziope, you should deal with that guy. The Navy here is really a bunch of rubbish. You were quite excited just now. Why don't you want to move now? She's a girl. Can you bear to let your lovely sister touch such dirty things? I can bear it, and I don't think you care about such things. It was common for Ulti, who mainly engaged in hand-to-hand combat, to be covered in blood. At that time, she didn't care, and Peggy 1 had long been immune to Ulti's coquetry, and this tone could not shake him at all. At this time, Nelson suddenly started laughing like crazy, which made Ulti and Peggy 1 confused. Ziope, it's all your fault. You were scared crazy by this guy. No, I think it's because of your hammer, sister. Ha ha ha. You pirates are finished. You guys are going to be finished soon. You don't know what you are going to encounter. At that moment, Nelson felt that he had realized that all this must be a trick of the Navy headquarters. The reason why Admiral Aokiji appeared here must be to arrest these pirates with bounties of over 100 million. Only pirates of this level would let the headquarters admiral take action, which perfectly explains why Aokiji appeared here. Yes, until this moment, Nelson still believed that the means of freezing the sea was Kuzen's Ice Age, not Yamato's frozen world. Yamato had rarely used this trick in his past battles. Nelson, who lacked understanding of New World pirates, instinctively brought it into Kuzen's ability. You will have to wait to spend the rest of your life in Pelton. This admiral's promotion is just around the corner. Ha ha ha. In this short period of time, Nelson, who was in fear, thought he saw hope. If this was Kuzen's plan, Kuzen would not give up on him as a bait. He will definitely be promoted after luring the enemy, and those 1,000-year-old dragons will probably not escape. In this way, both the dragon bones and the status will be at his fingertips. You are really crazy. Are the Navy of the East China Sea so easily frightened? Turning her wrist, Ulti swung her hammer. She didn't want to fight such a strange opponent, but Nelson laughed so wildly in front of her, which made her even more unhappy. However, before she threw her hammer, Nelson was hit by other attacks. Boom. With a loud bang, the place where Nelson was turned into a big hole. The whole warship was pierced by this blow, and the figure of Theron also appeared in front of them. Until death came, Nelson did not accept the reality. He was still immersed in his beautiful fantasy, dreaming of immortality, and getting promoted and rich. Sorry to bother you. Dragon Island is about to appear. I will deal with this trouble first. You should not mind, right? It's okay, it's okay. Just deal with that dirty thing. Ziope, go and see what it looks like down there. It's disgusting to think about it. Blood was dripping from Theron's feet. It was obviously not his own blood. Because his main body was a 1,000-year-old dragon, Theron had no interest in human clothing. That blow even pierced through the deck directly, not to mention Nelson's body, that had never been trained. From Farron's bloody claw marks, we can guess what is under that deck. I don't want to see it either. Let's just blow it up. Boom. The ammunition depot on the main ship of Nelson's fleet was ignited by flames. The huge explosion destroyed the main ship and the resistance of the Navy on other nearby warships. Facing the air raid of the 1,000-year-old dragon, the remaining Navy had begun their escape along the ice. Ulti and Page 1 had no intention of chasing them. Such enemies were not of interest to them at all, and their mission was not to annihilate these Navy. Where these Navy could escape to was their own business. In order to hunt the Millennium Dragon, all members of the 8th branch were dispatched, but the surprise attack of Ulti and Page 1 destroyed the defense line of their fleet in a few minutes. Nelson, as the commander, was also killed in an instant, and had no chance to issue effective orders, which resulted in other Navy not knowing what happened in this sea area. If they wanted to receive intelligence, they had to wait for the defeated troops to escape to a safe place. Even if they had Den Mushi now, they had no intention of reporting, because there were still deadly guys in the sky. The Millennium Dragon in the sky did not mean to let them go, and continued to attack. Sharp stone blades condensed from their mouths, and then turned into the most deadly weapons. After chasing for a distance, the Millennium Dragon also returned here. They did not land, but circled in the sky. Farron also joined the circle, waiting for the appearance of Dragon Island. Chapter 891, Special information about the Millennium Dragon. Are you kidding me? What kind of monster is this? The Mary was frozen by Yamato, and Luffy and others came out much slower. When they chased out, they saw rows of destroyed warships on the ice. Usually, they would go around when they saw warships. Even if it was a weaker navy, they would choose to escape. This is a choice most pirates would make. After all, there are very few pirates who can confront the navy head-on. But now, someone destroyed a warship group in front of them without any hesitation. I say, Luffy, have you really thought about it? Looking at the scene in front of him, Zoro couldn't help asking. Before this, the strongest person they had seen was Hawkeye. In terms of strength alone, Hawkeye was already a figure at the top of the pyramid. The swordsmen in the world have more or less heard of the name of the world's #1 swordsman. But Hawkeye's performance is far less exaggerated than that of Ulti and Page 1 at this time. He is just a click. If it weren't for a leaf, Hawkeye would not pay attention to him at all. In this case, outsiders naturally cannot understand how terrifying Hawkeye's strength is. The deterrent power of splitting a pirate ship is not as great as destroying an entire fleet. Luffy has made it clear that the Pirate King is his goal, but to become the Pirate King, these people in front of him are the mountains that must be crossed. I've thought about it. I've thought about it a long time ago. I've decided that I will eat 6 meals a day in the future. Are you sick? What does this have to do with eating? As the chef on the ship, Luffy's appetite has always been a headache for Sanji. Hearing that Luffy inexplicably had another meal, Sanji began to suspect that all the people on the ship might starve to death in the end. Because only when you are full can you continue to become stronger. Nami-chan, hurry up and buy a refrigerator with a lock, otherwise we will really starve to death at sea. The refrigerator is not important. The question is, do we really have to defeat this monster? Can't we just go around it? Yes. In fact, I have a disease that will kill me if I fight someone stronger than me. I think going around it is a good way. With Nami's sailing skills, I can definitely do it. As the weak duo on the ship at this time, they have a strong resistance to fighting monsters. Who knows, but if the target is the Pirate King, I'm afraid there will be no shortage of battles. By the way, if you know her, Hero, do you know who her father is? Hero, a very strong pirate. It's hard for you to understand how strong she is. Although they are members of the first generation of Heracross, they only know more about the forces around Arceus, and don't know the detailed information. Even if they know, Hero will not tell Luffy so much. Luffy is its important partner, but compared with its creator, there is a fundamental difference. These things are too early for Luffy now. When he really reaches that step, he will eventually understand these things. At this time, there were cries in the sky, and more 1,000-year-old dragons showed their figures. The 1,000-year-old dragons all over the world returned to the dragon cave at this moment. The weak Longli looked at the 1,000-year-old dragons flying in the sky and regained his spirit. Looking at Abyss in front of him, there was a little more tenderness in his old eyes. Roar. Longli, you let me ride on your back. Roar, really? Are you much better now? That's really great. Due to the distance, Abyss did not see what happened on the battlefield, but only saw the warships being destroyed one after another. In her worldview, these Navy who wanted to capture her and hurt Longli were not good people, so she didn't take it to heart. Longli had always told her that, as long as she returned to the Dragon Cave, her illness would be cured, so seeing Longli regain her spirit, she was only happy in her heart. At this time, she still didn't understand what a last gasp of energy meant. With his last bit of strength, the Dragon Lord took Abyss and flew high into the sky, circling with other Millennium Dragons. On the ice layer created by Yamato suddenly vibrated, and a huge shadow emerged under the ice, and an island rose from the sea. The ice layer broke, and the Dragon Cave with a large number of strange rocks revealed its true face again after 1,000 years. What? It turns out that this island has always been under the sea. No wonder it has been found for so long. Standing on a part of the island, Yamato looked at this wonderful scene, took out his Rotom phone to take a photo, and updated his status. The island is full of rocks in the shape of Millennium Dragon, but those are not real rocks, but the legendary dragon bones, which are the proof left after the Millennium Dragon died on this island. As the Millennium gathered, they began to greet each other, and the tribes of Fuan also began to ask about the whereabouts of the stone slab as agreed decades ago. And the information they obtained was also very confusing. Since they have lived long enough, the problem can be traced back to hundreds of years ago. I seem to have seen that kind of stone falling from the sky, but it was finally taken away by a group of black-winged humans. I don't know where they went, but I remember that the egg should have fallen on the Red Land. Well, I seem to have seen it once. It flew west from here for 30 days, and then flew north for more than 20 days. The meteorite should have fallen there that year. I remember it almost the same. The specific location should be about there. You can remember it. What I saw was the same as the old dragon. There is no new news, but be careful of those people in white clothes in the future. My people were attacked by those guys. By the way, you are very strong. You have dealt with so many human ships. All kinds of news came out, and then these 1,000-year-old dragons also began to brag about each other, praising the experience or appearance of their own people. After all, they reunited once in 1,000 years, so there was no need to find trouble. Fuan did integrate some news, and it was of certain value, but it would take many attempts to transform it into news of practical value. Apart from their own residences and dragon caves, the Millennium Dragons are not very interested in other islands. They are not like the tribes of Fuan who have been living together with humans and have begun to call those islands in the human way. They remember the islands according to the distance they move. After Fuan's message, there are many more marked points on Yamato's map, some of which are even islands, where stone slabs have been found. This confirms the feasibility of the news, but it also means that they will have a lot of work in the future. If they want to search all these places, they will have to spend a lot of effort. While the other Millennium Dragons were communicating, Longli put Abyss off his body and found a piece of ground that looked very flat. Then the whole dragon lay down weakly. Chapter 892, Emergency News from the East Sea, Kaido's Special Support. Dragon Lord, Dragon Lord. What's wrong with you, Dragon Lord? Seeing Dragon Lord lying powerlessly in the puddle, Abyss's heart, which had just been relieved, was hanging again. But no matter how she shook him, Dragon Lord did not respond. The old man's time is up. This is the Dragon Cave of the 1,000-year-old dragon, and it is also our cemetery. Phelan transformed into a dragon man again, and explained to Abyss beside her. The old man got lost because of an accident. He felt very lonely after being separated from his tribe. He was very happy when he was with you. Being able to return here, his last dream has been realized. Flying is the memory he left for you. You don't need to be sad. This is the place of ending, and at the same time, it is also the place of beginning. There are several 1,000-year-old dragons like Dragon Lord. Almost at the same time as their death, the cry of a newly born 1,000-year-old dragon was heard on the island. The reincarnation of the 1,000-year-old dragon began on this island. The Millennium Dragon tribe did not stay here for long. The newly born Millennium Dragon babies soon began to flap their wings and mastered the ability to fly in a very short time. They were separated again according to the differences of the tribes. The floating of Dragon Island caused the ice surface created by Yamato to break. Under the influence of the water flow, the ice layer quickly dispersed, and the Merry regained the ability to sail. The Straw Hat Pirates also embarked on their own journey again. Abyss returned to the side of the tribe, carrying the memory of the Dragon Master, and began her own inheritance. Yamato and Ulti were staring at a map in a daze. It's not right. This position is a bit wrong. According to the speed of the Millennium Dragon, it should be around here. A pair of plain glasses was taken out from somewhere. At this time, Yamato was wearing glasses and holding a ruler and gesturing on the map. She still knew how to draw simple drawings, and she could understand a sea chart, but according to the data given by Farron, it didn't match up, no matter how hard she tried. Those 1,000-year-old dragons wouldn't have remembered it wrong, right? After all, they are quite old, so it's normal for them to remember it wrong. Sister Yamato, what do you think? Should you change the map? Those 1,000-year-old dragons are talking about news from hundreds of years ago. Many islands have disappeared inexplicably with the passage of time. Maybe there will be news if we change to a map from hundreds of years ago. In a normal world, a natural disaster may cause an island to disappear in a few hundred years, let alone here. Being eaten by giant sea kings, digested by island-eating monsters, and bombed by the kings. There are too many reasons for an island to disappear. Even if it is a member of the world government, it may become an object of erasure for various reasons, and it may not be possible to find the place with the current map. That makes sense. Let's go find Robin to play with her. She should be better at this. I just said I was going to beat someone up. But before that, there's one more thing to do. What? Let's go and blow up this place. Iroku said that the navy of that branch has captured a large number of Heracruses, and the branch captain is also a bastard. It's a good time to teach them a lesson. Ding. Yamato's Rotom suddenly sounded a reminder. Looking at the Rotom screen, Yamato's face suddenly turned pale. What's wrong with you? Did you have a stomachache? No, Yuta forwarded my update just now. This is a private circle, a special information group that can only be seen by the beasts. Only people with exclusive Rotom can post or reply to similar updates, and Yuta is one of them. Just forward it. Why do you look so bad? But Sister Stella also forwarded it, and Tesoro will forward what she forwards. He never blocks people when he forwards things. It will be troublesome if that old man sees it. No, I want to give my godfather a suggestion, and Rotom phones need to add a function to prohibit forwarding. This should be counted as quins, but it doesn't matter. Captain Kaido doesn't look like someone who would read the news. No, Ziope, you don't understand. You can't measure my old man with normal people's thinking. What he shows people may all be illusions. Based on her understanding of Kaido, Kaido would like her to train 25 hours a day, so that he can see that he is living so comfortably. It may not be a big deal at the beginning, but once Kaido gets drunk, it will be a big trouble. Even if there is a need for improvement, that will be a matter for later. At this time, Yamato led Ulti and Page 1 to the 16th branch of the Navy, intending to teach the Navy there a painful lesson. When Mouse was recovering from his injuries in the branch with bandages all over his body, Yamato descended from the sky. The defense of the 16th branch was like nothing to her. The three of them destroyed the 16th branch of the Navy with ease. The base building where Mouse lived was also smashed down by a stick, which saved Mouse's reputation and made him a base commander who died in the line of duty. Since they were attacked in the branch, the people of the 16th branch still successfully sent out the news, but with such a big commotion, the reporters of the World Economic News Agency scattered all over the country reacted faster. Combined with the news of the survivors of the Nelson fleet of the 8th branch, a piece of news was quickly released by Morgans. The demon princess who ravaged the East China Sea. The Nelson fleet of the 8th branch of the East China Sea was completely destroyed, and the 16th branch of the East China Sea was destroyed. There was no exaggerated title, just stating the objective facts and the name of the task. This matter was enough to attract the attention of most people. This time it was Morgan's favorite big news. The newspaper of the World Economic News Agency was spread to all parts of the world with the news bird, and its influence was as always, and Kaido also made new actions because of this. Yamato did a good job. Although it's the East China Sea, she finally looks like a good daughter. This is my daughter. For Kaido, Yamato, who took the initiative to stir up trouble, is a good daughter. She overturned a marine branch. Although it was only a weak branch in the East China Sea, it was also a major progress. Where are you going? Although he said he was satisfied, Kaido was already holding a stick and walking towards the gate of Onigashima. Seeing Kaido's look, Arceus instinctively felt that he was going to make a new big move. Is there any need to say that? The journey of young people should not be interrupted like this. I'll go find something for those marines to do. If Yamato continued to travel leisurely, Kaido would have to plan a new round of makeup lessons for her, but since she made a big fuss, he could also help Yamato extend her travel time. With her status, the Navy would not ignore such a big fuss in the East China Sea. Although they might not be able to find Yamato, her journey could not continue. So Kaido used his own way to help Yamato solve this hidden danger, which was to create a bigger commotion in the new world, so that the Navy would not dare to be distracted. Chapter 893 A Restless Family. Why do I feel like you want to go out and fight again? Because you're itching to do it. Kaido said he was going to help Yamato attract firepower. This kind of thing didn't sound right. Given his situation, not throwing Yamato into the crowd was considered restrained, not to mention doing such a kind act. Given his personality, the biggest possibility is that he just wanted to fight. How could that be? I'll choose a special method. This method doesn't require fighting, but the effect is the same. Shaking his neck, Kaido picked up a bunch of wine jars, as if he had a new idea. Are you going to have a drink with that red-haired guy? Yeah, by the way, that guy got the position of the Emperor of the Sea in a very short time. Although we fought a few times, it wasn't fun at all. Let's just have a good drink with him this time. Ugh hehe. Kaido knew the psychology of the Navy very well. If the four emperors fought each other now, the Navy might not be nervous. Although their war would cause a lot of aftermath, it also gave the Navy an opportunity, a good opportunity to weaken the four emperors. So for the Navy, the fight between the four emperors is not a bad thing. As long as the situation is well controlled, good results can be achieved. But if two of the four emperors sit together and chat, the Navy will be really nervous. None of the current sea emperors are easy to deal with. If one of them goes crazy, the Navy will have a headache. The overall strength of the Navy is very strong and enough to deal with the Imperial group, but the sea is too big. Many generals and elite soldiers of the Navy headquarters are scattered in various seas, and they have to protect those world nobles. Without advanced preparation, the Navy branches scattered in various places can only give early warnings, and can't do anything else. If two people join forces to make a big move, it will be enough to make the Navy busy. The Navy has surveillance on the sea emperors, but there is no way to eavesdrop on their words and deeds. Kaido and Red Hair sit together for more than 10 minutes, and the Navy has to put all its energy on it to prevent them from making a big noise. There is only a thief for 1,000 days, but no thief for 1,000 days. Although the sea is turbulent now, it is also in a delicate balance. Suppose they take the initiative to attack a sea emperor. Without external interference, they are enough to destroy the other party, but they are not sure to keep the sea emperor. Suppose they let Kaido or Charlotte Lin escape after the action, then the Navy of the world must be careful of these monsters to carry out indiscriminate attacks. The Navy headquarters is not afraid, Mirajoa is not afraid, but the kings of the world can drive them crazy. In addition, their original policy is like this, and the top leaders of the world government will acquiesce to this situation. If such a thing really happens, and alarms the one in Hananoma, they will definitely be labeled incompetent. That guy's personality may not be able to have a good chat with you. It's okay. If he doesn't agree, I will take his daughter to him next time to see if he will talk. Kaido is not threatening Red Hair with Yuta, but Red Hair is now afraid that Yuta will come to him. In Red Hair's view, Yuta's current life is much better than following him as a pirate. A singer in the world of honor is much better than a wanted criminal. Although she keeps in touch, she has been refusing Yuta's request to meet. For the beasts, the current tutor brings more benefits, so they naturally plan to maintain the status quo. Kaido knows very well what Red Hair is worried about, so he is not afraid of his refusal. But there is still a problem. What? Do you think I should drink first and then fight, or fight first and then drink? In a sense, Arceus did not guess Kaido's plan wrong. He did not give up the idea of fighting or drinking, and planned to do both things at the same time. In a burst of laughter, Kaido left Onigashima and deliberately flew 2 circles in front of the Navy's surveillance ship, before flying towards Red Hair's territory. The next day, in the Navy headquarters, in Sengoku's office. Report to Marshal Sengoku. Here is a follow-up report from the 174 surveillance ship. Kaido has not returned since leaving Onigashima at noon yesterday. His destination is currently unknown. The report is over. Originally, this was just an ordinary report and did not attract the attention of the Navy headquarters. On their desks was the impact of Yamato in the East China Sea, and they were deciding on the next plan. Kaido's movement only made them suspect that the beasts had some new big moves. After all, it was illogical for a person of Yamato's weight to appear in the East China Sea inexplicably. Sengoku simply couldn't figure out what was there in the East China Sea that was worthy of the beast's interest. It was not uncommon for the Emperor of the Sea to be restless, and it was common for Kaido to run around. Compared to this, some things made Sengoku's head bigger. Garp. Look. It's your family again. Is there no one in your family that makes people worry? Luffy's bounty was spread out on Sengoku's table. This level of bounty criminal should not attract Sengoku's attention at all. Even if his bounty was 10 times the average bounty in the East China Sea, it would only attract attention in the East China Sea. Attack the East China Sea Navy branch. You are really your good grandson. Luffy's bounty was placed here only because his grandfather was called Garp, a naval hero. His son was now the world's most vicious criminal. His adopted grandson was the captain of the 2nd squad of the Whitebeard pirates, and his biological grandson also became a pirate with an initial bounty of 30 million. At this time, Sengoku was venting his anger at Denden Mushi. After all, Garp had gone to the East China Sea as soon as he received the news, and now he couldn't be found at all. Ha 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 ha, I know, I'm coming to the East China Sea. I'm going to arrest him now. Stop it. Don't fool me here. Garp, you should also know about the things in the East China Sea. Ah, Kaido's daughter? It's really a big trouble. Do you have any news about her? In Sengoku's view, Luffy is not a trouble at all now. Compared with Luffy, Yamato, whose purpose is currently unknown, is the real trouble. He thinks that Garp's grandson should be more obedient than Kaido's daughter. It is not easy for the Navy to specifically capture a certain pirate. It is not easy for them to find the target in the vast ocean. Not yet, but before Sengoku finished speaking, there was a flustered sound of footsteps outside the door, and an intelligence officer pushed the door in a slightly flustered manner. This is something that Sengoku allows. If there is really urgent intelligence, you can ignore those rules and explain it to him directly. Report to the Marshal. News has come from the 277th surveillance ship. Just now, red-haired Shanks came into contact with Kaido, the beast. Kaido has not left yet, and there is no fighting on the island. What did you say? Chapter 894 Confused Warring States and Red Hair. Red-haired Shanks and Kaido, the beast, have made contact, but no combat fluctuations have been detected. Garp, something has happened here. You are on standby. After hanging up the Denden Mushi that was in contact with Garp, Sengoku sorted out his expression. He was the Admiral of the Navy, and he couldn't easily show his emotions on his face. If he panicked, the soldiers under his command would be even more unconfident. Is the news true? The surveillance ship just sent the intelligence, and there is no follow-up news yet. The surveillance ship is trying to get close to them. Notify the headquarters vice admirals and above to stand by in the conference room and ask the intelligence department to come as well. Sengoku seemed to have been cursed. He said that the Garp family was not worrying him, and then he encountered a more troublesome family. After all, the Garp family still had a grandfather working for the Navy, and Kaido's father and daughter were both an absolute disaster. While waiting for others to arrive at the conference room, Sengoku also looked through the recent information about Kaido and Yamato. He was the admiral of the navy, and there were too many things to deal with, so it was normal that he couldn't remember many details. Yamato's existence was well concealed before, and the outside world had no idea about Kaido's daughter. However, when she first appeared in the public's field of vision, people knew that she was a huge threat. She suppressed the general commander of Germa 66 when she first appeared. The bounty of 170 million was the highest in the era, when there was no inflation. The first bounty was the number given by the world government and the navy, based on the threat of the other party. Yamato's bounty was certainly increased by Kaido, but also by her own strength. From 170 million to 1.78 billion, she experienced several battles and several veteran vice admirals were defeated by her. The last record of the navy was that she retreated calmly in the battle with Kuzan a year ago, and with the blessing of the beast's camp, she received this high bounty. If the Golden Lion had not died in obscurity, her bounty might have been redefined. As for Kaido, the more I look at his series of fatal battle records, the more headache I feel. Kaido is definitely the most restless one now. You can never predict where this guy will appear tomorrow and what outrageous things he will do. Under the mobilization of Sengoku, except for Garp who is in the East China Sea at this time, Kizaru who is with Vegapunk, and Akainu who is stationed in Mary Gi's, the senior executives of the headquarters have come to the conference room. And new intelligence came one after another. Report. The clouds in the sky nearby are cracked, and Kaido and Red Hair are suspected of having a conflict. Hearing this, the people present were relieved. It is better to fight than not to fight. It is best to fight to the point of both sides being injured and dying together. In the eyes of most navy, the more these pirates die, the better. Report. The aftermath of the battle has disappeared, and no trace of Kaido's departure has been found. Looking at the wall clock in the conference room, the minute hand has moved less than 3 scales. It is impossible for these two people to decide the winner in 3 minutes. After a few minutes, the surveillance ship also sent the last message. Kaido still did not leave, but Red Hair's deputy Beckman sank the surveillance ship. Some time ago, the Nelson fleet of the 8th branch of the East China Sea was wiped out. 3 days later, the 16th branch was attacked, and the branch colonel Rat was killed. The initiator of all this was the daughter of Kaido, the beast. Now Kaido suddenly talks with Red Hair. You should all know what this means. It's not just the two of them. Don't forget Big Mom and Whitebird. Whitebird and Kaido have conflicts, but Charlotte Lin is different. Their pirate groups have been in contact privately. If Kaido really makes any big moves, Charlotte Lin is likely to intervene. If it really comes to that, the new world will be turned upside down, and Whitebird will not sit idly by. The worst possible situation is that we may have to face those 4 monsters at the same time. Crane's head also grew bigger. Whitebird had little chance of cooperating with Kaido, but he would not join forces with the navy to deal with pirates. He would definitely take his own actions at that time. Facing a sea emperor, the navy will not worry about the combat power, but there are too many things that will be triggered later. But the chain reaction triggered by this cannot be tolerated by anyone, and it may even destroy the order of the sea. All soldiers' vacations are cancelled, all generals are on standby at all times. Let Garp come back immediately. The matter of the East China Sea can be put aside for now. Now this is the big deal. Crane, you go and try to persuade Zephyr. Kuzan, order the spies in the Red Hair and Beast's forces to find out what those two guys did at all costs. If Kaido really has any big moves, then the Grand Line and the New World must be the focus. The Yamato in the East China Sea feels like a deliberate fishing. Sengoku dare not disperse his troops to find a Yamato who doesn't know where he is in this situation. After the destruction of the 16 branches, Yamato seemed to have evaporated from the face of the earth, and no one knew where he ran to. If Garp continued to delay there and finally got nothing, it would not be worth it. Yes. Prepare for war. This is the only plan Sengoku can make, but Sengoku doesn't know that Kaido's goal has been achieved. Not long ago, a lively banquet was being held in Red Hair's territory. As for the reason for the banquet, the kid from Windmill Village had already gone to sea and become a pirate, which was a good reason for the Red Hair pirates. What's more, Red Hair also met Hawkeye. Hawkeye chased Crick to the East China Sea and saw the familiar straw hat. Later, He saw Luffy's bounty order, so he found red hair. He did not return the same way, but directly crossed the Red Earth continent and entered the New World. As for the small boat, it was easy to solve. Large ships could not cross the Red Earth continent, but Hawkeye could carry this kind of small boat on his back. He only needed to fold up the sail, and the coffin board boat could become a ready-made backpack. For this reason, he deliberately chose a small road with no people. That is, when Hawkeye was drunk by red hair, Kaido's domineering color covered the island. Between fighting first and drinking later, or drinking first and fighting later, he chose the former, because drinking first and fighting later might make the Navy think that they had broken down, and then he would not be able to achieve his previous goal. Seeing Kaido appear here, Shanks and Beckman also had the same doubts as Sengoku. They couldn't figure out why Kaido appeared here inexplicably. Although Yuta was an artist under the beast fruit, they were not so familiar with each other. It wouldn't be strange for Red Hair to come to fight Kaido, but it was a bit intriguing that this guy was carrying a bunch of wine jars. Chapter 895 Kaido, give me some face. Red Hair. Kaido, what on earth do you want to do? The classic way of greeting the four emperors when they meet is the hedging of the conqueror's haki. The unlucky ones are the people who eat bystanders. Red Hair also has his own large fleet, and it seems that the quality is worrying. On weekdays, in addition to the main force of the Redfers, other affiliated pirate groups will also follow Red Hair. When Kaido's Conqueror's Haki is released, Red Hair's carders are fine, but they can't stand it and fall on the deck of the ship. Ugh, Shanks, your subordinates are too weak. Is this your hobby? This has nothing to do with you. Kaido, do you want to fight? The equally powerful Conqueror's Haki pushed Kaido's Conqueror's Haki back, and Griffin was already unsheathed. Facing Kaido, a moody guy, Shanks did not relax his vigilance. It's really a powerful Conqueror's Haki. The little devil on Roger's ship has grown to this point. It just so happens that it won't be too boring now. Zeng. Griffin and Hachise collided, and the clash of Conqueror's Haki also rose from momentum to entity. Shanks had seen all this a long time ago, and was not surprised. In terms of observation Haki, Shanks has a unique advantage. His observation Haki itself has reached the point of predicting the future, and he also has the special ability of observation killing, which can make him immune to the observation Haki perception of others. With these two abilities, he can always get the upper hand in the battle. The other members of the Red Hair Pirates did not intend to intervene. This was the battle of their big boss. If no one else joined, they would only lose face for Shanks. Kaido, what on earth do you want to do? Shanks suspected that there was something wrong with his observation Haki, because he saw the scene of Kaido sitting down to drink. The most important thing was that Kaido really drank on the spot after a few simple collisions, and after that, he lost his observation of Kaido's future. Kaido seemed to disappear in the future out of thin air. That ability was very similar to his observation killing, but Kaido seemed to rely on some external force. I'm just bored, so I planned to come to your place and sit for a while. Didn't you see that I brought some wine, and it's wine from the West Sea? How do you know such a thing, Yuta? Yeah, that little girl can't forget about you. I specifically asked her on the way here and only then did I know about this preference. And according to your habits, I should say this. Give me a favor and sit down and have a good drink, or I'll bring that little girl here and let her join your pirate group. You are now one of the four emperors, and that girl is also a world famous singer. This is not a breach of contract. This was not a threat, but it worked well for Shanks. He really didn't want Yuta to return to the pirate path, so he let Kaido join the banquet. It just so happened that he also had some questions he wanted to clarify. Kaido, don't you have anything to say about what happened to Mr. Rotten? Why are you the same as that old man Whitebird, talking about that guy all the time? Although that guy is a good opponent, why is he so attractive? If you want to ask, it's Kurozumi Orochi's conspiracy. If you don't believe it, you can also come to Wano Country and see what Wano Country is like now. And Odin's daughter is now the general of Wano Country. You can ask her to answer you in person. Shanks was silent for a moment, and finally did not continue to delve into this issue. He had his own ideas. Kaido stayed here for about half an hour, and until Kaido left, Shanks didn't understand what this guy was doing here. Shanks, are you really not going to let Yuta come back? Although the beast fruit is not from the pirates, it is the beast's thing after all. If Yuta stays there, it will affect many things in the future. I know, but Yuta's state should not be our pirate ship, but the whole world. It is better this way than being wanted by the Navy with us. Besides, Kaido is a battle madman and will not affect the outcome of the battle in that way. I want to know more about this guy's purpose. He won't come here specially to sit, right? Speaking of which, the wine is really good. I should ask him where he got it from. Speaking of which, I met his daughter when I was in the East China Sea. Recently, his daughter has also made a lot of noise in the East China Sea. Hawkeye on the side said silently. Kaido is not a swordsman, and this is Red Hair's territory. He has no reason to take action, but just gave Shanks some additional information. When he is not deliberately making trouble, Shanks' intelligence is also online. Substituting himself, he seems to have figured out some things. It seems that guy used me. Less than 10 minutes after Kaido left, a special dendenmashi on his body rang, and a deep voice sounded. Red Hair, what did Kaido say to you? Nothing, just a drink. Red Hair, do you think we are fools? You want to fool us with this reason? Don't forget what your situation is. Since you don't believe it, then it's up to you, and don't think you can order me. Shanks hung up the phone directly, then put his arm around Hawkeye's shoulders and pulled him back to the table. The party was not over yet. Shanks, that phone call. A few suspicious guys. Ignore them. Just keep drinking. At this moment, Mirajoa and the 5 elders looked at the busy dendenmashi for a long time without saying a word. Can you trust what Red Hair said? This brat has his own ideas. Let's follow Sengoku's arrangement and strengthen surveillance. Apart from that, there is no other way for the time being. Due to Kaido's inexplicable actions, almost all the dendenmashi in the Navy were busy. In addition, some people were also leaking information to people they had a private relationship with, and even Kuzan joined the ranks. Admiral Kuzan, is there anything? The eyes of the dendenmashi gradually turned into a pair of dead fish eyes, and the body of the mouth even imitated the shape of a cigar, but it didn't smoke. Smoker, you should have seen the latest order from the headquarters. I saw it. I order you as the admiral of the headquarters not to act rashly. The affairs of the East China Sea are not something you can handle. Do you understand? That woman is not an ordinary pirate. She is even immune to my attacks and releases a cold current that is not weaker than mine. Smoker, the headquarters has a big operation, and you are absolutely not allowed to violate the order at this time. Chapter 896, New Features, Frozen Superior Dragon. Most pirates are restless, and there are many restless people in the Navy. Smoker is one of them. But his restlessness is not the restlessness of a rat or manka, but a personality problem. He acts on his own, and does not obey discipline. Some people in the inner circle secretly call him a mad dog. As a natural ability user, it is obviously a waste of talent to let him station in Rogue Town. His appearance in the East China Sea is both a protection and a temporary demotion. His attitude towards pirates is in line with the overall policy of the Navy, but not in line with the policies stipulated by the world government. The world government never wants to eliminate them. Letting him come to the East China Sea, on the one hand, is to calm him down, and also to temper his temper, so that he can learn to obey better. However, his personality is not so easy to change. Under his management, Rogue Town, as the beginning and end of Roger, has also entered a relatively stable state. The overall strength of the pirates in the East China Sea is not strong, but they will also rob towns. In particular, Rogue Town has attracted the attention of many people because of the birth of the Pirate King. Since Smoker was placed here, Rogue Town has become the end of the East China Sea pirates. As natural people, Kuzan, Sakazuki, and Borsalino also have their own temperaments. Whether it is Kuzan's laziness, Borsalino's slacking off, or Sakazuki's coldness, they all swept across the faces of the world government officials. But this does not affect the status of their headquarters admirals, because they are strong enough and are an important combat force of the Navy. Smoker is similar to the 3 admirals in many ways, but he has a similar temper, but does not have the corresponding strength. Otherwise, even if someone is unhappy with him, there is nothing they can do about him. Smoker will be stationed in Rogue Town, which is also related to him offending some people. The size of the world government is extremely large, and those people have different attitudes towards the Navy. Many people even think that the Navy has always been a dog of the world government. They can't do anything about the admirals, but they have ways to disgust people. The attack on Zephyrs' family is a mystery within the Navy. Where did the soldiers who were protected go, and how did those people find Zephyrs' family? There are too many things that cannot be explained. Even Zephyr was fooled, not to mention Smoker now. However, he has not reached that point yet, so the people above just let Smoker fade out of their sight temporarily. It is a pity to destroy a natural ability user who is loyal to the Navy. Some people don't like Smoker's way of doing things, but this does not prevent others from appreciating him. He also has friends in the Navy, and Kyuzen has a good personal relationship with him. He deliberately called Smoker because he didn't want Smoker to do anything suicidal. According to his understanding of Smoker, Yamato's behavior in the East China Sea will inevitably attract Smoker's attention. He has a high probability of taking the initiative to look for the other party. If he can't find him, it's okay. If he finds him, he will be a pure delivery. Smoker did not make too many applications of the properties of the smoke itself. The smoke fruit is just a prop to evade attacks in his hands. If he encounters a physical pirate who is proficient in domineering, he will be easily beaten unilaterally. Colonel Smoker, you must obey this order, and don't bother with that woman. Do you understand? Hearing that Smoker didn't respond on the other end of the phone, Kyuzen ordered him again in an extremely formal tone, even addressing the other party's rank. Yes, I understand. You don't have to be unconvinced. This is all for your own good. That woman is not simple. She has the ability to hurt me now. It seems that he heard a hint of dissatisfaction in Smoker's tone. For the sake of their personal relationship, Kyuzen said a few more words. In fact, the battle between him and Yamato a year ago gave him a headache. There is a difference between the upper and lower levels of devil fruits. The weapon fruit and the quick cut fruit, the ton pressure fruit and the kilogram fruit are direct examples, and the element of the natural system are even more so. The ice fruit and the big mouth true god originally had no connection, but after the big mouth true god was transformed, the new Kyurem was born with special abilities that belonged to this world. Devil fruits host demons, and the demon in the big mouth true god was erased by Arceus, but after a demon disappears, the vacancy left needs to be filled. No new demons were born. Yamato's own consciousness completely dominated the fruit, which also caused some changes to the original demon power. As the body of the dragon, Kyurem also has the title of the strongest. In this case, the new version of the great mouth god has become the pinnacle of all ice type devil fruits. She has an additional ice eating feature. Ice attribute attacks are ineffective against her. Not only can Kyuzen not freeze her, but even frozen ice can be eaten directly as food. In another world, she can call herself the Ice Demon Slayer, but she has no interest in eating ice. Although it can restore some physical strength, the amount of recovery is not worth it for her to do so. Her own health bar is too thick, and she has to eat at least an iceberg to see some effect. The absolute restraint inability forced Kyuzen to compete with Yamato in physical skills. In a sense, he couldn't tell whether Yamato retreated calmly or didn't want to fight at all. The suppression of ability is more absolute than the restraint of the superior fruit. Among the three generals today, Kyuzen is the easiest opponent for Yamato to deal with. It was also during this battle that Kyuzen understood more about how strong the opponent's physical skills were. He was sure that Smoker could not even take her stick. After repeated instructions, Kyuzen hung up the phone and left the headquarters and began his defense work according to the predetermined position. The order of the world government is very simple. No matter what happens, it must be given priority to ensure that Mirijoa is not disturbed. As for other places, they don't care about how they are destroyed. At most, they will wait for a reshuffle. Anyway, this is how it has been for hundreds of years. In hundreds of years of history, most of the destruction of countries was due to war, but there are also many countries that were wiped out by Mirijoa herself. As for Smoker, he was silent for a while after hanging up Kyuzen's phone. It was not because he felt underestimated, but because he always wanted to tell Kyuzen that he didn't have to think of himself as a brainless reckless man. Sometimes, he does ignore orders, but he is not crazy, otherwise he should have challenged the 4 emperors alone a long time ago. He is well aware that monsters with a bounty of more than 1 billion are not something he can deal with now. Otherwise, he would not have compromised so easily when he saw Long in Rogue Town before. He does not want to try to see if he can develop domineering or awakening abilities by hitting him on the head with a stick. Because of Kuzen's concern, Smoker looked at his adjutant to confirm something. Tashiji, what kind of person do you think I am? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 897 Fat Express. Learn more. Mr. Smoker should be a good person. As a cute girl with glasses, she carried out her boss's order and gave him a good person card. Although he looks fierce, he is also doing justice. Okay, you don't have to continue. His own adjutant is not very smart. Smoker can be sure that Tashiji did not understand the meaning of his words. Thinking back, Kuzen's series of orders directly blocked the possibility of his reply. It seems that his inherent impression is really wrong. So Mr. Smoker, what should we do next? What? Of course, go after the Straw Hat Boy. There are many bounty orders scattered on his desk, and the top ones are Yamato and Luffy. Yamato's record has already shown that he is not someone he can deal with, but the latter one is different. He laughed on the execution platform and had an inexplicable relationship with Dragon. He is also a newcomer. Although Kuzen did not allow him to interfere in Yamato's affairs, he did not prohibit him from hunting the Straw Hat. As for the bounty order for Yamato on the table, the Navy's usual style, we may not be able to deal with you for the time being, but we can increase your bounty, and the bounty of the 4 emperors will lose its actual value. The original purpose of the bounty was to attract bounty hunters to hunt pirates, but no bounty hunter who is brave enough to challenge the 4 emperors at will has appeared. There is an endless stream of people challenging the 4 emperors, but none of these warriors are for the Navy's bounty. They are all ambitious people with greater ambitions. For them, money is no longer their goal. The Navy team in Rogue Town has not changed much. Smoker took a few people to start the journey to pursue Luffy. Now the East China Sea clique pirates have been wiped out, and the buggy pirates are missing. Instead, there are no pirates that need his special attention. Although the 16th branch and the 8th branch have suffered a major blow, it is still within the tolerable range. Yamato, who caused an uproar, was just about to leave the East China Sea. The Millennium Dragon group has returned to the residence of Onigashima, leaving only the steel-armored crow as a means of transportation. During this period of time, Yamato tried to find places where there might be stone slabs according to the description of the Millennium Dragon. However, the era was too long ago, and the map really didn't match, so she started to plan to find a professional to deal with it first. Although she could use Rotom to communicate remotely, that would be less fun, so she chose to have a face-to-face interview. It's so hard to find. Where did the Red-Nosed Pirates go? It's not the Red-Nose, it's the Buggy Pirates. Please don't change their names for no reason. It's the same. I saw that the guy was once Red Hair's brother and Roger's crew member, so their strength should be about the same. It might be very interesting. Yamato didn't care about the revision proposed by Ulti. In her opinion, it was all the same. As Red Hair's brother, it was reasonable to name his own pirate group after his own iconic things. How could a pirate of that strength stay in the East China Sea? There will be stains on every ship. Don't worry about it. Anyway, we don't know where that guy is hiding. Yes, this comment is true. That guy is a bit lucky. In the intelligence column about Buggy, obtained from the beasts, there is a very special one, ridiculously lucky. She can only use this reason to explain why she can't find him. It's not just Colonel Mouse that Hello complained about. Buggy also belongs to this category. However, Mouse is the base commander of the naval base, and the location is easy to find, but Buggy is different. The Navy can't find Yamato running around in the East China Sea, and Yamato can't find Buggy who disappeared inexplicably. Darn. Come in. There was a knock on the door suddenly, and Yamato said come in casually, and then he realized that he was in the sky, and Steel Armor Raven didn't attack this person. It should be said that it was not a human at all. When Yamato turned around, a cute yellow creature was flying outside the Steel Crow taxi. On the shoulder bag on its chest, there seemed to be the words Postal Express written on it. In its hand, it was holding a special envelope. The opening of the envelope was sealed with wax in the shape of the beast pirate flag. Steel Crow temporarily landed on a nearby island, and the other party handed the envelope to Yamato. Are you the Pokemon newly created by my godfather? Yamato was sure that she had never seen this kind of Pokemon before she left Onigashima. This was obviously a new type of Pokemon that had just been born recently. Woo. While confirming it, it also stuffed the envelope in its hand to Yamato. This was a test of the express delivery business that Beasts was going to carry out internally in the near future. Dendenmushi and Rotom could meet the needs of making calls, but some things had to be delivered in kind. The unique environment restricted transportation. Compared with ships, flying was much faster. In the past, Beast's motto was to sail slowly when there was nothing to do, and to find Zorora when there was something urgent. The ocean has become more unstable recently, and Zorora is a little too busy. After all, his main job is not a career. In order to strengthen the connection between the islands in the territory, new couriers are also born on the sea. As the name suggests, the most important thing for courier is speed and safety, and Dragonite is perfectly selected for this position. Dragonite is orange-yellow, with two long and thin tentacles and a small horn on the top of its head. There is a pair of slightly small wings behind it. Although it is a dragon-type Pokemon, it looks naive and very cute. Coupled with some special translators, Dragonite is often nicknamed Fat. But under this appearance, there is a powerful power hidden. Dragonite has intelligence that is comparable to that of humans. It can do almost everything that humans can do. As long as it is given systematic training, it is not impossible to let them type code. As a Pokemon that appeared in the first generation, every time the Pokemon world becomes larger, its flying speed becomes faster. According to records, Dragonite only takes 16 hours to circle the Earth. With their speed, Dragonite is able to achieve 1-hour delivery within the Beast Sea, and to urgently reinforce troops during wartime. In addition to this speed, Dragonite also has great power in its body. It can fly through the sea without any waves even in a stormy sea, which is very suitable for the sea environment of the New World. This is a trial operation. After confirming that there are no problems, Dragonite's business will first be spread out in the territory of the beast, closely connecting each island. At this time, Dragonite took out a small notebook from his bag and signaled Yamato to sign for the letter. Chapter 898. The moment the defense was broken by a word, the timid trio in advance. Yamato signed for the letter without any precautions, and also asked why Dragonite wanted to do the express delivery business. After Dragonite's explanation, she still didn't quite understand, but she felt it was very meaningful. After all, it was arranged by Arceus, so it was useful. Is the letter to me also a test by you? It sounds like you are really powerful, but it is more convenient to call than to write a letter. Yamato opened the envelope after signing for it, and then stuffed the letter back at a speed that Dragonite didn't even react. Well, let's discuss it. How about you pretend that you didn't find me? Dragonite's little paw took out a piece of paper from his pocket again. It was Yamato's life card. Looking at the piece of paper gradually approaching him, Yamato understood that this was obviously impossible. If he couldn't find anyone with a life card, Dragonite, the courier, should prepare to resign. Not to mention that she had already signed the receipt. Now she regretted signing for it a little. There was nothing special in the envelope, just an ordinary letter, but the letter was signed by Kaido. Back to Onigashima, there is a surprise. Just a few words, like a mountain, directly pressed down on Yamato's head. Kaido's surprise, no matter how you think about it, it can't be a good thing. The master asked you to call him. After receiving the letter, Dragonite's words rekindled a glimmer of hope for Yamato. Maybe things are not as bad as she thought. After Autumn connected to Onigashima, Yamato directly asked Arceus, Godfather, what's the matter with this letter? It's just a small test. Where are you exactly now? An island in the East China Sea, not too far from the upside down mountain. Is that so? This speed is not bad. There's nothing else. The Navy has been very active recently. Be careful. Wait, Godfather, what exactly does the content of this letter mean? The test was over, and Arceus had no intention of continuing to chat, but before he hung up the phone, Yamato called him. What's the content? Yes, Godfather, don't you know the content? I don't know. I wanted to write something casually, but your father seems to have new plans. The last hope was shattered, and she knew that Kaido would find ways to target her. At this time, she was already imagining what kind of terrorist attack Kaido would plan. But Yamato did not remain pessimistic. What is coming will come, and you can't hide from it. It is meaningless to worry blindly, and it will waste your leisure time. This is also the truth she summed up from the lesson. Let's go, Zyopie-chan. Enjoy the rest of the trip. There's something wrong with what you said. That idiot Kaido is obviously targeting you. Why do you make it sound like Zyopie and I are going to suffer together? Because I will drag you along. Aren't we friends? Please don't talk about friendship in such a weird place. Who wants to be tortured by that guy with you? Not bad, chan. You no longer deny that we are friends, and you don't care about the name. This is a big improvement. That's enough. Can you be smarter at critical moments, and don't always use your brain in such weird places? For some reason, Ulti always felt that Yamato would break her defense, and all her armor would be pierced invisibly. Okay, it's time to go. Let's get a permanent pointer to Alabasta first. If I remember correctly, the specialty of the next island is the Tornado Potato Tower. After Yamato and the others decided on the next destination, Dragonite was also ready to leave. This was originally a test of its speed, and it had no intention of staying any longer. But before leaving, it handed Yamato and the others a stack of newspapers, which just happened to include their new bounty. This was bought from Newsbird, but the Newsbird was so scared that it didn't even dare to take the money and flew away in a hurry. Dragonite has always been a Pokémon with a relatively gentle personality in Legends. There are even rumors that it evolved from the Haxorus family to this form in order to have hands to help others. But Newsbird didn't know all this. For Newsbird, this big fat dragon that caught up was a terrible top predator. Thanks to the action in the East China Sea, Yamato's bounty successfully exceeded 2 billion, becoming the fourth most bountiful person in the beasts. Ulti and Page 1's bounties also increased slightly, but they didn't care much about this. In contrast, some people were sweating profusely because of their bounties. On the Golden Mary, Nami was getting angry at the Newsbird. Why does today's newspaper cost 200 baileys? You are raising the price maliciously. I want to complain to you. Even though there was a gold mine at home, her greedy character did not improve. This was a habit she had developed before the gold mine was discovered. The Newsbird flew out helplessly. It was just a part-time worker. What could they do if the boss raised the price? But this price increase was worth it. In addition to the usual news, there were also special picture books and additional bounties. Usopp wanted to take a look at the picture books, but the next moment, he suddenly sat on the ground. What's wrong, Usopp? What did you see? Get up and take the helm. A bounty is on the way. Nami was about to taunt Usopp, who had fallen to the ground, but when she saw the bounty, she automatically joined Usopp and formed a trembling duo. The bounties on Page 1 and Ulti were still at the bottom, but the bounty on the top had already refreshed their 3 views. Only Yamato bounty of 2 billion and 47 million baileys. 2 billion. Luffy. Come and see that guy. That woman is a complete monster. Luffy, who was sitting at the bow, was called over. He was not afraid of Yamato's bounty, but laughed instead. She is really strong, but in this case, the one who will become the Pirate King must be me. I can definitely defeat her. Wake up. Nami's iron fist of love hit Luffy's head hard, and she took this opportunity to vent her fear. Your bounty is not even a fraction of hers. And she still has a father. That guy is probably even more terrifying. Why do we have to fight against such a person? I regret it. Is it too late for us to turn around now? What are you talking about, Nami? We have come this far. There is no turning back. Even if her father is very strong, I will not admit defeat. Luffy was full of confidence at this time, but Hello successfully broke Luffy's defense with one sentence. Her father is a monster stronger than your grandfather. Although he didn't say anything, everyone found that Luffy's legs seemed to be shaking a little. They didn't know what Hello said that could make Luffy feel fearful. Chapter 899. The Evolution of Magikarp, the new regional form of the pirate world. Everyone has something they are afraid of, and some things are like psychological shadows. For Yamato, Kaido is her psychological shadow. She is no longer the same as before, and the era when Kaido could easily deal with her is over. The same excellent fighting nerves, stronger physical fitness, and forced intelligence are all the results of Kaido's training. Yamato has learned all her skills, and she has become more and more proficient in using her own abilities, which leads to Kaido's real fight with her every time. It can be as short as half a day, or as long as 2 or 3 days, and the movement is bigger and bigger. Although it is not fair, Kaido is the most difficult opponent for Yamato. Similarly, even Luffy, who is fearless, has his own psychological shadow Garp. Garp threw Luffy into the abyss, left Luffy alone in a dangerous forest, and tied Luffy to a balloon, and flew into the air. This is all what Garp did to train him into a strong Navy soldier. Coupled with the domineering Iron Fist of Love, Garp gave Luffy a good foundation, but Luffy's development was completely different from what he expected. The comparison between Heracross and Garp made him see the reality directly, and thought of some not so good pictures. Grandpa? Is your grandpa a very strong person? In addition to Luffy, Nami also had a certain understanding of Heracross's language. From the tone of Heracross, she heard the word grandpa. Ah, grandpa is also a monster, but even if it is grandpa, don't try to stop me from becoming the Pirate King. Luffy quickly came out of his fear. This little thing would not make him retreat. Okay, Nami, keep steering. We are about to enter the Grand Line, right? It should be. If the clown buggy's navigation chart is correct, the entrance to the upside down mountain is just ahead. Although they were afraid, no one on the ship stopped because of this. After regrouping, they still set off on the journey. Those monsters were terribly strong, but from the information they knew so far, they didn't have to fight each other. Okay Usopp, don't be scared there. Don't you want to be a brave sea warrior? You can't be scared now. Who is scared? I'm not scared. I just want to read the picture book. Yes, I just want to read the picture book. Picking up the newspaper again, Usopp wanted to change his mood, but the news in the newspaper attracted his attention again. The mysterious meeting between Kaido of Beasts and red-haired Shanks. The sea may be destroyed because of the two. Morgan's headline-grabbing personality broke out again, and he began to make a fuss about this for Emperor's talks, and the word beasts also caught Usopp's attention. If he remembered correctly, the bounties of Ulti, page 1, Yamato and others all mentioned this word. In this case, Kaido of Beasts should be their captain. 4,677,000,000. The strength just now hadn't passed, and in the blink of an eye he saw something even more terrifying. If this was the man that Yamato said was going to be the Pirate King, Usopp's eyes rolled up, and then he fainted with foam at the mouth. He thought of something so horrible that it was indescribable, and even triggered the body's self-protection mechanism. After the people on the boat treated him randomly, Usopp finally woke up. At this time, they had arrived near the upside down mountain. The current began to become turbulent at this time. Looking into the distance, the countercurrent sea was surging up the peak of the upside down mountain along the channel. But in addition to the upside down mountain, they also saw another wonder. The entire sea was covered with red at this time, and even the road that must be passed by the upside down mountain was stained with a touch of red. This was not blood, but the color of the Magikarp's scales. This season was just the pilgrimage time for the Magikarp tribes in the Four Seas. At this time, the weak Magikarp will stay in their original place of residence, while the strong Magikarp will follow their own tribe, either crossing the upside down mountain, or crossing the calm belt to head towards Wano country. It is relatively easy for Magikarp living in the West Sea or the North Sea to return to Wano country, while it is relatively difficult for Magikarp living in the South Sea and the East Sea. Before evolution, Magikarp could not fly, and were just ordinary weak carp. This is also a problem that some scholars have not yet figured out. They don't understand why these strange carp would travel in groups at this time and return to their place of residence after roaming, so they have to classify it as fish migration. This is also a human habit. People always use their known logic to explain new discoveries. Magikarp has a very strong reproductive capacity. On the sea today, Magikarp has reproduced for who knows how many generations. The pilgrimage has gradually become a part of the tribe's trial road. In this process, some weak individuals will be eliminated, and strong individuals will evolve. At this time, the channel of Upside Down Mountain will be temporarily occupied by them, and even the Merry has stopped temporarily. The road is blocked. What should we do? Don't worry, this situation will last for 2 days at most, and it will be gone soon, idiot. Stop it. Sanji knew some of the inside story here, because of Beret's Gyarados. At most, the Magikarp will pass through this channel in 2 days, but before he finished speaking, he saw Luffy trying to drive the fish school away in other ways, and immediately kicked him out. What are you doing, Sanji? If we don't drive them away, how can we get through? You listen to others carefully. If you really do it, then we really can't get through. Boom. Boom. 2 shells fell into the Magikarp's school of fish. A large number of Magikarp in the dense school of fish were stunned by the impact of the explosion, and the source of the shells happened to be another pirate ship. Okay, you will know what is going to happen soon. Looking at the unknown pirate ship, Sanji had already regarded them as dead people in his heart. Go on. Do some stinky fish want to block my way? I must find the legendary treasure. On the pirate ship, a captain was giving orders, and they did not notice that there was a terrifying red figure under the ship. The next moment, the red figure suddenly stood up and crashed into the pirate ship. It was not the evolved Gyarados, but a school of Magikarp. In this dangerous sea, the Magikarp have also undergone certain changes. After all, the Magikarp that can evolve into Gyarados are a minority, and there will still be some groups that are in a state without the protection of Gyarados. In order to survive in this dangerous sea, they eventually evolved into a lifestyle similar to that of the tilapia, forming their own unique school of fish. Chapter 900, The Beginning of the Theory of Threat of the 100 Beasts. Speaking of weak Pokémon, apart from the initial form of bug-type Pokémon, we can't avoid the weakling. The small weakling is like a dancer in the sea, but this cannot hide the reality of their weakness. In the process of biological evolution, Magikarp evolved itself into a special state where most of its body is bones, reducing the possibility of being eaten by making itself unpalatable. Unlike Magikarp, weakling is not only weak, but also very delicious, which attracts a large number of predators. White sea lions, gulls, and whale kings all rode weaklings on their recipes. From dozens to a ton at a time, weaklings are very vulnerable to these predators. In order to survive, weaklings have learned to cooperate. In order to fight against the enemy, weaklings will form a special formation and become a sea monster that even Gyarados fears. Although a single one is very weak, as long as everyone gathers together and works together, they can have great power. The more there are, the stronger the group of scorpions will be. This is something they are proud of. The water guns they fire together have the power to surpass water cannons. In the Pokémon world, few Pokémon will eat Magikarp, but it is different here. Sea Kings and Sea Beasts eat Magikarp, and Gyarados eats them in turn. It can be said that several new links have been added to the original food chain. The weak Magikarp was unwilling to be treated as food, so it gradually emerged in this form. By maintaining a huge group of Magikarp through the energy in the body, it can deter predators in the sea. The attack of this pirate ship angered these Magikarp. Compared with scorpions, Magikarp does not have much advantage. Due to the limitation of their ability, they cannot learn water guns, but they have collisions and water splashes. With the concerted efforts of their companions, the Magikarp group jumped out of the sea like a whole and crashed into the pirate ship. One Magikarp is weak, and 10 Magikarps are also weak, but when they gather together in hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands and use the energy of Pokémon to form a special whole, their water splashing and jumping also achieves the effect of a mountain crushing the top of the head. The Straw Hat Pirates saw the sinking of the pirate ship that was much larger than the Merry with their own eyes, and couldn't help but look at Sanji. If Luffy really did something, they might be in trouble. Then what should we do now? Just wait. This process won't take long. No, maybe we don't have to wait. Sanji saw a familiar figure from underwater. It was the Gyarados of Berity. It didn't want to leave with Sanji. There must be a Gyarados left in the Four Seas to protect the tribe. Otherwise when they come back, their hometown will be stolen. This Gyarados is one of the ones who stayed behind, and it came here just to see Sanji off. With the relationship of Gyarados, the Mary has a place in the Magikarp group, and started its journey smoothly. At this moment, Yamato and others are experiencing a potato feast on the new island. This island is rich in potatoes, and a grand harvest season will be held on the days of harvest. Ulti was rarely entangled when looking at the different flavors of the tornado potato tower. Yamato took Tutu and Happy Egg to participate in the game on the island. Happy Egg even sat on Yamato's head in a very special posture. With its size, it can't do this, but there is a skill called shrinking, which can increase its dodge rate by shrinking its size. It is reported that in a certain Pokemon world, there is a genius with a big brain. He brought a lot of stinky muds and let them shrink and hide on himself, giving the enemy an unexpected attack. This Happy Egg is also in a similar situation, but it is just for the convenience of going out. If you don't pay attention, it is no different from Yamato's headdress now. Page 1 ran to participate in the goldfish scooping activity. There is no fishing competition, and it is also okay to scoop goldfish. Compared with the leisure of the trio, Onigashima is not so leisurely. The Dragonite post is ready to go, and has allocated its territory according to the sea chart. You guys are responsible for external liaison on Onigashima. You are responsible for Area 7 and Area 6. On Onigashima, the Dragonites lined up in a neat square to accept Arceus' assignments. The Dragonites who were not assigned to an area were anxiously waiting for the next arrangement. Don't worry about the area. You will be arranged to rotate in a while. You two will go to find Tesoro later. Stay with him to handle some things for him and protect his family. There is no need to worry about the safety on Onigashima. Under the frequent attacks of Quinn's persecution delusion, Wano country is built like an iron barrel, and even outsiders can't see many people living here. The men are fighting hard outside, at least they can't let the backyard of others catch fire. Arceus doesn't want to see something like Zifa's family being attacked on Onigashima. This is also the reason why Onigashima must have a top combat force left behind to prevent theft. This is something that the Emperor of the Sea cannot completely avoid. In the original timeline, Big Mom went to Onigashima and her house was robbed by Blackbird. It's just that there are always some carters whose families need to go out, or they don't live on Onigashima due to their personal lifestyles. Tesoro and Stella are examples. Arranging two Dragonites to Tesoro's side is, on the one hand, because his business is quite busy, the delivery of valuables, the transfer of special intelligence, these have to be handled by special people, and this part of the work used to be done by Zorora. With the emergence of Dragonite Post, new personnel can be arranged there, and as the actions of the beasts become more and more large, the environment around Tesoro has become increasingly complex. Especially after the talks between Kaido and Red Hair, the world government has begun to see the signs of the beast threat theory. Many people believe that compared to the elderly Whitebird, the dragons who act in secret, and the beasts who make a big move from time to time, are the biggest threats to the world government. The annual profit of the beast's fruit is an astronomical figure, and this is only the transaction amount on the surface. How much money is made from those large transactions in private is something that only the top leaders of the beasts know. These funds eventually became part of the military force of the beasts. In their eyes, the beasts are now a powder keg that is expanding day by day. However, many people in the world government cannot refuse this benefit and are still adding more powder to the keg, especially since there are many celestial dragons in it. They are not interested in the consequences and only see the immediate benefits. After all, for them, no matter how the world collapses, their lives will not be disturbed. Since this company can make them enjoy themselves, it has a reason to exist. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.